The house, once filled with laughter, now echoed with memories I didn't want to face. Anne and I, we had history, but she destroyed it. She said it was for the kids, for our family. But every glance, every touch, it was poisoned with the truth of her affair. She thought I wouldn't find out. She was wrong. And when I did, there was no going back. I knew I couldn't just let it go. I left work early the next day, Friday, and asked Jenny to do the same. She quickly agreed. I picked up the keys to the house, and even though David offered to drive me, I chose to go by myself. He gave me a paper with important instructions. "Don't forget the code to turn off the alarm or the police could show up," David reminded me. With that in mind, I drove to the house, feeling a mix of nervousness and excitement. I enjoyed the blooming gardens and fresh trees along the way. Everything looked lovely, especially with the sun shining brightly in the clear blue sky. When I arrived at the gate, I saw the long driveway leading to the front door. I drove up slowly, filled with memories. Standing in front of the door, I paused, suddenly feeling afraid. Was there a reason for my fear? Taking a deep breath, I put the key in the lock and opened the door. A loud beeping sound filled the air. The alarm! I quickly found my phone and looked for the 4-digit code. The control box was by the front door and I entered the number. The beeping stopped, but I noticed the word Sweden written beneath the box. My phone rang and I answered it. "Yes? Please give the code word." "Who is this?" "The alarm company. Please say the code word." "Is it Sweden?" "Thank you. Have you had any problems?" "I'm moving into the house." "Mr. Alan Johnson?" "Yes, I sometimes have trouble remembering things, so I need a little extra time if I forget." "We can give you more time." "That would be great. I want to avoid panicking every time I come home." After that call, I started to explore the house. It felt familiar. The kitchen was easy to navigate, and I was happy to see all the utensils in their places. It was a charming, old-fashioned kitchen. I realized I didn't need to buy anything. David or Viv must have cleaned and set it all up. The living room felt familiar, but I couldn't remember why. The two other rooms looked like an office and a dining room. The office had a computer, while the dining room featured a table and chairs along with an empty sideboard. I noticed a door under the stairs that led to the cellars. One cellar had a snooker table, while the other had a table tennis setup. A dartboard was on one of the doors, and the other two rooms were filled with stacked boxes, something to explore when I had time. Upstairs, the bathroom and toilet had nothing surprising. Only toilet paper was in the cupboards. As I entered the bedrooms, I found 5 in total. When I stepped into the first room, a flood of memories came back to me. This was our bedroom. It had an attached bathroom, with 2 wardrobes and a dressing table. Curious, I opened the drawers and was surprised to find socks and clothes. The wardrobe was filled with suits, sweaters, shirts, and ties. Some drawers were empty, but the second wardrobe had a few dresses and skirts hanging neatly. I imagined Anne wearing one of those, playing in the garden with the boys. Maybe I did have some memories after all. I found the bedding in the drawers and took out a set. I unfolded it and let it air out, just like my mother used to do. Another memory came back. I clearly remembered Stefan not feeling well on the stairs. I also recalled all the children crowded in our bed on Christmas morning. It brought a tear to my eye. The house was bringing back memories. I even remembered that we used to have milk delivered and decided to look for delivery services if any were still around. Yes, I belonged in this house, and it kept memories that I could uncover. I looked at the boiler and saw a note from David on the board next to it. "Dear Alan, I stocked the fridge with basics. Here is a list of takeaway shops that deliver. You can order more supplies from Asda, Sainsbury's, or Tesco online. You have broadband here. Try turning on the computer in the study. Welcome back home, David." What a good friend he was. I made some tea and sat in the kitchen, enjoying the warmth of the place. It really felt like home. I had limited time that night, but tomorrow I'd have the whole day to explore the house, check out the garden, unpack my bags, and try out that computer. I turned on the radio and let the music and voices fill the air. Then it was time to tidy up and leave for my flat. I would be moving in tomorrow. I followed the instructions to set the alarm, wondering how it got that name as I closed the door and waited for the beeping to stop. Then I returned to my other home, where I packed 2 suitcases and went to bed. On Saturday, I had an early breakfast, loaded the car, drove to the new place, unloaded it with the suitcases, and took a walk around the area. I went into Sale Town Center for supplies and found Sainsbury's. I came back to the house carrying bags and was glad I had a car. I had left the alarm off and appreciated that. My phone rang and Jenny asked if it was a good time to visit. I gave her the address and she said she was on her way. Being back home and on familiar roads really helped my memory. I tested myself. Could I remember the alarm code? What was the password? Where was Sainsbury's? How would I get there by car? That feeling of being lost in the world had faded, but now in this new place I worried it might return. Still, I truly felt at home. Did I say that already? Jenny arrived. We hugged warmly. I showed her around the house, pointing out things that reminded me of good times. "This house is going to be great for you," Jenny said confidently. "It's a lovely old house, full of character," she added as we returned to the kitchen while I made a pot of tea. I sat happily across from her at the oak kitchen table. I felt comfortable, enjoying the company of one of my favorite people for the weekend. The day went by quickly. We spent most of it driving between my flat and the house, moving my belongings and finding places for everything. To my surprise, all the men's clothing in the house fit me, and Jenny figured they were probably mine. Anne had never thrown them away. I left a change of clothes and some basic toiletries at the flat, planning to keep my lease for the next 6 months. In the afternoon, we finished everything I had planned to do, along with some cleaning since the house was dusty from being unused for a long time. In the evening, I ordered a Chinese meal for us. We were too tired for anything too close that night, but enjoyed a meaningful connection in the morning. There's something special about a Sunday morning. It feels relaxed and slow, allowing us to enjoy each other's company, sharing moments of warmth and connection. The gentle talks brought us closer, making it comforting to be together. She bent down, focusing on something near my feet, creating a sweet moment between us. The atmosphere felt charged as we grew closer, our bond deepening with every shared smile. After a brief pause, we leaned into our connection, enjoying the moment together. I wanted to get the Sunday newspaper from the local shop since our neighbors valued their privacy. While I couldn't go right away, I prepared a simple breakfast of baked croissants and coffee that we enjoyed together. After a nice afternoon filled with lunch and a walk, we returned home for tea and some freshly made scones. As we relaxed, she expressed a wish for something special that only I could give. I understood what she meant, and after a brief wait for her to freshen up, we returned to our earlier moments of sweetness, building our bond even more. Eventually, during a playful moment, I ended up with a small bump, but we found laughter in the situation, realizing our connection was just as much about joy and fun as it was about being close. "You're the only woman I know who can knock me off my feet with your words." "Oh, Alan, I'm sorry." "Don't be. I should have been more careful." She straightened herself up and got ready to leave. "Work tomorrow," she said, giving me a sincere goodbye. "Thanks. It was a lovely weekend." "No, thank you," I said, and we shared one last smile before she drove off. I'm relieved we can't see the future. If we could, I know I wouldn't have slept that night. Thankfully, I can't predict what's coming. I have enough to deal with from the past. So I managed to sleep. 19. Work was easy thanks to Jenny. She kept things professional, very respectful, even when we were by ourselves. I appreciated that about her. She was focused and had strong principles. If we couldn't show affection in front of coworkers, we wouldn't do it at all. On Tuesday, we visited one of Northern Moore's projects. We needed to see if we could fix their problems or suggest a new approach. After that, we started preparing for our trip to Germany after the Easter holiday. David called later that day to let me know he had met with Anne and her lawyer to discuss a money issue. They were still asking for funds from the company, which could put it in trouble. They didn't seem to care about our employees. Now, this issue would go to court. On Wednesday, I remembered Trish mentioned she would come on Thursday, but hadn't confirmed it with her. "Jenny?" I asked. "Do you want to meet Trish tomorrow before she leaves to see her family?" She looked a bit unsure. "Jenny, you'll like her. Don't forget she's going to New Zealand after Easter. This might be your only chance to meet her. Without her support, I might not have gotten close to you." She seemed relieved and agreed to come by the next morning. "I can't come over tonight," she said. "I don't want you juggling visits." She made a joke, but I could tell she was a bit worried about me spending time with Trish over the weekend. There wasn't much I could do. I had told her that closeness can lead to feeling jealous. Maybe bringing them together would be a good idea or a risky one. As I was leaving the office, the phone rang. It was Keith. "I need to meet with you and the others tonight. Are you coming?" With Jenny not visiting, I was free. "Yes," I said. "It's the Wednesday meeting of the 4. I wouldn't miss it." "Usual time, 7:30? He asked. "Sure." "Cross Keys?" My question was a bit pointless. It was our regular spot. "Where else?" He laughed before hanging up. I tidied my house, knowing I wouldn't have time to clean up after returning from the pub. I got a taxi and headed to the pub, where the others were already there, looking serious. "This doesn't look good," I noticed as I sat down. My drink was already waiting for me. Taking a long sip, I looked around at them. "What's happening?" "I happened to drive by Northern," Keith started. "I hadn't taken that road in a long time. I saw they built a new office, which reminded me of when it was being constructed." I parked the car, got out, and walked into their reception area. I wasn't sure why I did that, except that we talked about the company the last time we were together. I told the receptionist that I had seen their new wing and wanted to know who had built it for my own business. Here's the interesting part. She thought it might be O'Malley and his son. She mentioned that he sometimes disappeared while working on other projects, which often slowed everything down. She said the project took almost 2 years to finish, so O'Malley was working with Northern. But it gets better. One of the office staff overheard us. He said he believed O'Malley was hired by another company. O'Malley and his son were on site, but occasionally 3 other bricklayers helped. You can see where this is leading, right? He was quite helpful. Using the receptionist's computer, he checked their records and found the builder's name, Derek Fanshawe. This information shocked me as I tried to understand what it meant for our investigation. So there's a chance that either Northern or Fanshawe himself is involved? How do we find out the truth? Which one, if either, is responsible? Colin added his thoughts. "Qui bono who benefits," he said, explaining briefly as he continued without waiting for a response. "Northern definitely has a motive since you've been taking business away from them, so they need to be looked at. But Derek Fanshawe? Would he really go so far as to remove you just to be with Anne? That seems extreme." David chimed in. "Fanshawe has been struggling for years and things are getting worse. He needs money to cover lawsuits from clients. Desperation can drive people to do anything." Notice what both he and Anne are asking for. They want millions from the company. Why such a huge amount? Anne is doing well, has a stable job, and receives a good monthly payment from you. Unless this demand is to help with Fanshawe's financial issues, it creates a possible reason. Remove you, Alan, for good and make a move for Anne. Then he would stand to gain a lot financially. Even if they parted ways, he would benefit. Plus, if she develops feelings for him, she might be willing to help him. He seems to have an advantage. "Unless you survive, or your true identity is confirmed," Keith said quietly. "That's worrying. I can't fully believe it, but if he's willing to harm me to get to Anne, how safe is she if they get married? He could gain a lot as her husband if something happens to her, unless she has kept him out of any will, which seems unlikely if she cares about him. That's a concerning point I hadn't thought about. If he's involved in this and we don't know, Anne could be in real danger. We need to take action. We have to look into his finances and build a complete psychological profile of him. It's also important to talk to his ex-wife. And don't forget about O'Malley. He has information. I think it would be good to include him. A charge of being involved in a harmful act could motivate him to share, especially if he thinks it might lead to serious consequences." Keith lowered his voice so no one could hear. "Colin, I believe a private meeting with O'Malley could bring us better results, just the 3 of us. I don't think David should join us. It's important for him to realize how his actions have affected you, Alan. I'm not completely comfortable with that, Colin said. But I'm not officially on the case. I just share information. O'Malley doesn't know me, so he might prefer to just talk to us instead of going through the police, which might bring too much attention. Alan, once this case gets media attention, you'll be in the spotlight. I don't like that idea, I said, feeling uneasy. I think I know where O'Malley will be on Monday night during the Easter bank holiday. He'll be at the Golden Lion. We can talk to him when he leaves. If both of you can keep the evening free, I'll call you if he shows up. He usually leaves around 9. We need this information, I agreed. If it's true, we have to stop the marriage from happening. There are lives involved. If he tried to hurt me, he could go after Anne, and we also need to think about the kids. A quiet moment passed before David spoke. Alan, you were going to talk to Anne. I think you should wait until we get the facts. We wouldn't want to tip him off if he's guilty. That made sense, but I still felt uneasy about it. That's even more reason to contact O'Malley and find out the truth. But if Fanshawe is behind what happened to me, I'll confront Anne right away. Colin asked, Alan, could you come to the station and give another DNA sample? I agreed, and we left it at that. As I sat at home with a glass of whiskey, I thought about this new development. The idea of Northern Moor being involved in my danger seemed too much, but the reasons Derek had might mean he was on my mind. I began to dislike him more than ever. However, I had to be realistic. We needed solid proof, and O'Malley would give it, one way or another. I finished the whiskey and poured myself some milk to help with the alcohol. The next day would be interesting. I had no experience dealing with fighting women. I wondered again if I had made the right choice by inviting Jenny to meet Trish. Then the doorbell rang, waking me up. I made my way downstairs and opened the door to see Jenny smiling brightly. Am I too early? She asked. I've brought some pastries for breakfast. If you've brought pastries, you're perfect on time, I said, giving her a friendly hug. I started making coffee, even though I preferred tea in the morning. But coffee goes well with pastries. What time is it? I asked while working. 10. I realized I had overslept. I thought about telling her about the meeting from the night before, but decided to wait until Trish got here. Just then, my phone rang, reminding me I should have called her. Oh no, I thought as I answered. Trish, I'm really sorry I didn't call. There's been some progress. I met with the others last night. Where are you? She laughed. Don't worry. I know you forget things when you're busy. Do you want me? Oh, Trish, I really do, I replied, making her laugh again, which made Jenny look curious. Seriously, she said, still smiling. Today's Thursday, did you know? I have a long weekend after all the extra hours I worked. Want me to come? She giggled. Yes, that would be great. Jenny just got here. Are you home? Actually, I'm at the service station just outside Bradford. I'll be there in under an hour. Give me the address. She said she would call when she was close since she had a map of the area. Jenny and I decided to have toast and tea, saving the pastries and coffee for when Trish arrived. Trish pulled up almost right on time. I opened the door for her. Wow, she said as she walked in. Great house, even better on the inside. I took her to the kitchen where Jenny was waiting. I introduced them and watched as they greeted each other, both clearly curious about one another, which made me smile. I stepped out to grab Trish's bags from her car and brought them to the bedroom. One bag had a big chocolate Easter egg inside. I silently thanked Trish. I hadn't thought to get one for Jenny. I would need to find a chance to get one, even if Jenny couldn't have it until after Easter. But chocolate is always a nice surprise for many. When I got back, they were deep in conversation, sharing stories, much of it about me. Could you make the coffee, please? Jenny asked. And if you could put the Danish on a plate and set the table, that would be great, Trish added. They exchanged giggles, clearly enjoying each other's company, and I was outnumbered. I agreed and then joined them at the table. They were very talkative. After our snack, Jenny took Trish on a tour of the house, leaving me in the kitchen. I wondered how Jenny would feel seeing Trish's bags in our bedroom, but I didn't notice any signs of jealousy. Trish came back to the kitchen by herself after Jenny quickly stopped at the bathroom. She's lovely, Trish said. Hold on to that one. They suggested we find a local pub for lunch. Jenny offered to drive since she needed to pack for a trip home that evening. I don't want to trouble you, Trish said. Don't worry, I need to get ready for my visit to my parents this weekend. She then shared her story. So you see, she explained to Trish while we were seated in a pub not far from my house, it's going to be complicated. Alan helped me realize I should try to talk things over with them and share everything. He's right, Trish responded as if I wasn't there. He has good ideas sometimes. She smiled at me. Speaking of talking things over, what's new with the Anne situation? I recounted what happened in our meeting the night before and shared my worries. Both women became serious. She's going to be heartbroken when she finds out what's been happening, Jenny said. I can't imagine how she will feel, Trish added. Hey, you two, I interrupted. I'm still here, just so you know. They both laughed. Is he doing okay? Teased Trish, looking at Jenny. Oh, yes, Jenny replied, laughing. Definitely, but I think you helped him. I felt a bit awkward. Hey, I objected. I'm right here, you know. And about Derek, we can't assume he's the one at fault. Yet, Trish added. Not at all, I replied. We're going to talk to O'Malley and get the information we need. We know he's involved, Jenny said. Just make sure not to rush into anything, Alan. I think it's clear that Derek is the one, Trish said. I'd bet on that. He needs to be stopped. You're not going to let the wedding happen, are you? Poor woman, Jenny murmured. As if by agreement, the conversation shifted to other topics. I felt a bit invisible. They chatted endlessly about clothes, makeup, and topics I found uninteresting. I wasn't looking for a deeper relationship or anything romantic. I cherished the connection I had with each of these wonderful women and wanted to keep it that way. I felt lucky that they got along so well. Trish stepped away for a moment. She's amazing, Jenny said. I'll miss her when she leaves. I nodded. I've been lucky to have her support, just like both of you. You're both smart and caring people. And you deserve them, said Trish, returning with a smile and sitting beside Jenny. I felt thankful for their company. The afternoon flew by, and after dinner, Jenny left to prepare for her trip. She gave me a warm hug while Trish watched with a smile. They shared a kind hug before Jenny left. Alan, Trish said, don't let her go. She's perfect for you, caring, smart, and she truly appreciates you. I feel lucky to have two wonderful women in my life, I said, smiling back at her. And you know just what to say, she replied. But we have our own time together now. With that, we settled in to enjoy some moments together. A fleeting thought crossed my mind about how Jenny might feel about us being close. Trish must have sensed my distraction. She offered some comfort. It's okay, Alan. She's happy for you. In times like these, it's easy to wonder what's real, but I couldn't shake my worries. 20. Before things got tough, one of our favorite traditions on Good Friday was baking hot cross buns while listening to Bach's St. Matthew Passion. I don't know why this memory sticks with me while others fade away, but I'm grateful for it. Luckily, I had all the ingredients ready since I had stocked up earlier. I started early, and soon Trish came downstairs looking a bit off after the night before. She didn't say much at first, just moved around the kitchen making tea and toast. Finally, she spoke. Nice smell. Trish, you have to try homemade hot cross buns. They're amazing. Humph, she replied. I wasn't sure or concerned if she liked my comment or not. She sat at the table enjoying her toast while I hurried through my meal. As I passed behind her, I gently touched the top of her head. You are so beautiful, I whispered, making her snort in disbelief. It's true, I insisted, earning another snort. I sighed. Some people are just hard to talk to in the morning. There was no reply. She got up and came over to me. As I mixed the dough with dried fruit, forming it into buns, she wrapped her arms around my waist and rested her head on my shoulder, saying, Love you. And I love you too, I replied, and I'd show you how much if I weren't busy with this. She sighed in disappointment. I'm off for a shower, she said, and she was. Just over an hour later, the buns were cooling on a rack and I went upstairs. Trish was fast asleep on the bed wearing a bathrobe. I quietly left the room to take my own shower. When I returned, I gently stroked her face until she opened her eyes. She looked surprised to see me and smiled. Just then, she noticed something outside the window. "Alan, there's a girl on our drive," she said, sounding surprised. "She's just standing there and looking at the house." A moment later, she added, "I think she's crying. I'll go see what's wrong." She quickly put on some sweatpants and a shirt before heading out, asking me to join her. I went to the open window and saw Trish approaching the girl. The road was quiet that holiday, allowing me to hear their conversation. The girl looked familiar. "Hello, are you okay?" Trish asked. "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean... What's wrong? Are you in trouble?" "It's fine, it's nothing. It's clearly something. Would you like to come in? Have a drink, juice, milk, tea? Come in and tell me about it." Trish wrapped her arm around the girl, and they both entered the house. Where had I seen the girl before? I quickly got dressed and quietly went downstairs. They were in the kitchen, and I could tell Trish had offered her a drink. As I reached the bottom of the stairs, their conversation made me stop. "So, what's wrong?" asked Trish. "It's nothing, really. I used to live here. My mom said the house was sold. We moved when she went to be with her boyfriend. I didn't want to move. I love this house. I hoped my dad might come back someday. I wish we knew where he was. I came back for one last look. I don't like where we live now, and I don't like her boyfriend. He feels odd. I hate that he and Mom are getting married, but everything's just the same as we left it. And you're making hot cross buns. Dad always did that on Good Friday. That's strange. I'm Trish. Greta. Well, Greta, my boyfriend wanted this house as soon as he saw it, and he wanted it furnished. Your mom wasn't interested in any of the stuff, so she left it all here." "Is he here?" "Yes. He's getting dressed, I think. Now, about your dad. What happened?" "He left us 2 years ago. He went on a business trip and never came back. He's living with another woman somewhere, but no one knows where. Mom was very sad for a long time, saying, maybe he'll come back. Then she lost hope and just grew angry. That's when she started seeing Derek. But it's not the same as it was with Dad. No one laughs anymore. Derek doesn't play with the kids. Dad used to play soccer with them. He was a lot of fun. He used to talk with me and take me for walks. Derek is just different. He seems so focused on my mom that I don't think he even notices us. I just don't understand why Dad left. Mom and he were so happy. How could he leave us? While we lived here, I always thought Dad might come back one day. Moving in with Derek felt like giving up hope. Even if he couldn't face Mom, how could he just leave me and my brothers? I wish I knew. I miss him so much." I heard her start to cry again. I felt a deep sadness. It wasn't just me who had lost something. Their whole family was hurting. I hadn't realized it until now, but I truly felt their pain. Greta shouldn't have to suffer anymore. I heard someone get up and hid around the corner of the stairs, just in case it was Greta. "I'll be with you in a minute. I'll check on him." Trish came into the hall and saw me. "You heard?" she whispered. I nodded, still in shock. That was my daughter in there, and she was very upset. "Will you see her? She needs you, Alan." I nodded again. I couldn't turn away from my own daughter. "Wait here until I get her ready," Trish said, always practical. "Meeting you will surprise her. She won't expect it, but your presence will be even more unexpected. Trust me, I understand what you need." She turned and walked away. "He'll arrive soon." "So, you were wishing for your dad just now?" "Yes, I've always hoped he would come back, but I don't think that will happen." "Greta, I have some surprising news for you today." "What do you mean?" "If I said I could help you talk to your dad?" "What?" "I can help you reach your dad, but there are some rules." "Are you serious? You're not joking?" "I'll agree to anything." I could see her excitement as her eyes lit up. I smiled, with tears forming in my eyes. "First, you need to promise not to tell anyone else where he is. Not your mom, not your brothers." "You know I have brothers." "You said your dad used to play with them. Will you promise to keep this a secret? He will connect with you eventually, but not right away." Yes. I don't understand why, but I'll keep it a secret. I just want to see him again." She was eager. "Can we go see him now?" "Secondly," Trish said, ignoring her request, There are some important things for you to know. Get ready. Some of this may be difficult to hear. Okay. I could feel her anxiousness rising. Here's the truth. Your dad didn't leave for someone else. So why? The day he left York to come home, he was attacked by a group who took everything from him. I'm really sorry to say this, Greta, but it was serious. No one thought he would survive after what happened. He was so hurt that no one could recognize him. He struggled to remember he had a family. I heard her gasp. But I'm sure Mum called the hospital and there was no one admitted. The hospital was in Newcastle. I worked there as a nurse. I saw him when he arrived. Newcastle? How does that work? We don't know. Your dad can't remember, but you need to know he was very badly hurt. His face needed to be fixed while he was in a deep sleep. You might not recognize him. I will! I'll know it's him! My heart ached for her. All right, my boyfriend can help you connect with him. I'll get him. She walked into the hall. Go ahead, she said, her eyes filled with tears. I felt emotional too. Here, she said, handing me her handkerchief. Wipe your eyes. I did and walked to the kitchen. I came in without my stick and approached her, holding out my hand. I noticed her emotions, shock, sadness, concern, and as I spoke, she began to understand who I was. Hello, Greta, I said. She took my hand. You're in touch with your dad now, I said with a smile, tears starting to form in my eyes. Daddy, she shouted, jumping to her feet and rushing to give me a hug. Daddy, she cried, her tears falling onto my shirt and my own tears landing on her hair. Now I feel like I'm home, I whispered. How could you think I would ever want to leave you? She cried a lot, and I did too. We stayed like that for a long time, as I gently rubbed her back while Trish, with tears in her eyes, busied herself making a nice cup of tea for us. After a while, Greta started to feel better, and I sat down. She joined me, resting her arm around my shoulder. It may have seemed a little awkward, but we didn't mind. We enjoyed our tea while Trish smiled at us, moving her gaze from one of us to the other. Then she spoke up. Greta, your dad had to learn everything all over again, how to talk, how to eat and drink, and how to walk. He has worked hard to get better. He may forget things sometimes, but his memory has come back a lot since he got back to Sale. Greta looked at me with pride. Not bad looking, am I? I joked. You're still the best-looking man I know, she said with a big smile. You're just saying that, I replied. You're my dad. There's no one better. This is the best day of my life, she said before her eyes started to tear up again. Let's save the tears for later, I told her, mostly to keep myself from crying as well. Dad? Yes. Chicken? Trish said you're her boyfriend. Yes. Does that mean? Yes. Don't forget, Trish added. Your dad and I started dating before he realized he had a wife and family. He needed someone. It seems he doesn't have a wife anymore, though. Your mom is with someone else now. She's moved on. Oh, Greta replied, sounding sad. The divorce? Then she cheered up. But now you can come back and talk to Mom. No, Greta, I said firmly. Things have gone too far, and there are other reasons I can't share right now about why I can't reach out to Mom yet. Remember your promise to keep me a secret? She nodded. I promise you, I continued, I'll tell you everything when it's safe. There are many things happening that it's better for you not to know about just yet. But for now, I won't let you down, Dad, but please, let's tell the boys soon. They're having a hard time with Derek. Things aren't good at home. I promise. Now, I said, let's get you some hot cross buns. Greta started crying again, probably thinking about past Good Fridays that couldn't happen again, but soon she was happily eating the buns, and her smile returned. 21. It was truly a Good Friday. I had my daughter back, and that was just the start of many plans. I had to be cautious about how much I shared with Greta, so I didn't mention anything about my time in the hospital or how I was getting better. She held my hand at the kitchen table like she thought I would disappear if she let go. Thankfully, she moved from my lap to a chair next to me. I let Trish tell her side of the story, which she did in detail. When she got to the part about my return home, I took over. I shared about the flat and going back to work. She laughed about Judy fainting, showed interest in my new assistant, and said she wished she could visit Canada. I decided not to mention my trip to Sweden, knowing it might lead to too many questions that could be tricky for her and Anne. After I finished telling her about my arrival, she looked like she was thinking hard. "Dad," she started slowly, "if Mom marries him, can I come live here with you? I think the boys might want to as well." "Well, I think you're old enough to make that choice. I'm not sure about the boys. Your mom has custody and I have visiting time. We can talk about it when the time comes." She seemed happy with that, and we moved on. She took Trish around the house, sharing stories from when the family lived there, and I followed along, remembering times we had together. Then Greta's phone rang. We could hear her side of the talk. "Hello, Mom. I'm with friends." "Yes, I know, Mom." "Mom, it's still morning. Please stop bothering me." "Look, Mom, I'm in Sale. Can you pick me up? You're on your way to Uncle Peter's house." "All right. I'll be outside Sale Station at 2, okay?" Her voice sounded a bit annoyed. "Bye, Mother." The conversation showed the usual teenage frustration, a blend of patience, annoyance, and a touch of defiance. "Greta," I said softly. "Yes?" "My memory is a bit fuzzy. Remind me, did I ever talk to Mom like that when I was your age?" "Well, no." "Did I speak to you or the boys like that?" "No." "Don't do it, chicken. It doesn't look good on you." "Sorry, Dad." "That's okay, chicken." A quick hug, and we were done. I went out to get fish and chips, which is our family tradition for Good Friday. Greta looked thoughtful as we ate, and then it was time for her to leave. I drove her to the station and dropped her off. As she got out of the car, she turned to me. "Dad, can I come back soon?" "Of course, Chuck. This is your home, too. I'll get you a key." "Sunday?" "Sure, if you're free." "Good. And Dad?" "Yes?" "Thanks for being firm with me." "Pardon?" "It shows you're my dad. Derek never says anything. He's too nervous. Bye." She gave me a quick kiss and left. I felt grateful to have her as my daughter, a daughter I could be proud of. Her visit was wonderful. I stopped by a supermarket to get some eggs for Trish and Jenny and another for Greta. When I got back home, Trish was in the garden, kneeling in the flower beds, pulling out weeds. It set a nice tone for the weekend. "The weather is nice. Don't you want to do something else?" I asked her. "No," she replied with a happy smile. "I just want to be in this house with you. I want you to remember me in this garden." So we spent the day and all of Saturday gardening. In the evening, we curled up together, listened to jazz, and I made a sponge cake for the next day. After sharing some laughs, we settled down and enjoyed being together. It felt nice to have such a close bond. On Sunday morning, she brought out a large chocolate egg and said, "Happy Easter." I handed her a gift and said, "Happy Easter, Trish." She looked surprised. "How did you know?" "I had to tell you the truth. I saw yours when I carried in your bags." She didn't mind, but asked if I had a gift for Greta. Greta arrived just in time for lunch on Sunday. We went to a restaurant and then took a walk. She wanted me to explain why I couldn't talk to Anne. I promised I would tell her everything as soon as the police allowed it, but I had to keep my presence under wraps for now. She seemed unhappy, but agreed. When we got back to the house, I prepared a meal for tea with salad, ham, salami, cheese, scones, and cake. It felt warm and a bit odd. The three of us got along well, almost like a family. Trish noted this, and Greta agreed. Trish said she was glad to have this time together since she was leaving soon. This surprised Greta, who looked a bit concerned for me. I felt grateful for her care, and just as Trish was about to say more, I shook my head. I asked Greta if she would do a DNA test to see if she was my daughter. She happily agreed, and I gave her the address of a clinic David recommended. Since it was school break, she said she would go on Tuesday. I wrote her a letter to confirm I would pay for the test. We drove Greta home, and I got my first look at Derek's big house. It looked impressive compared to the place in Sale. Greta remarked that it looked like a barn and said she didn't like it. She hugged Trish after making sure she would see her again before Trish left for New Zealand, then hugged me, gave me a quick kiss, and was off, walking up the path with excitement. "That girl will make people notice her," Trish said as we watched her enter the house. "Look at her." Sometimes fathers need reminders about their growing kids. I was surprised to see how much my little girl was growing up, and I felt I needed to talk to her about it. I shared my worries with Trish. "You can't do that," she exclaimed. "That girl is lovely, but she has strong values, stronger than I ever did." Once we got home, we sat with warm drinks and listened to music together. We both knew she would need to leave early the next morning for her upcoming night shifts. So, in the early morning, she left, and I took some time to work in the garden. 22. Colin picked me up at 8, and the others were already in the car. We thought about going into the pub for a drink, but Keith warned against it. If he leaves early, it'll be obvious if we all follow him. I think if he believes no one has noticed him with us, he'll be more likely to talk. We all agreed, even if we were thirsty. At 9, Ted O'Malley came out of his building. He had to walk by our parked car on his way home. What happened next felt like something from a movie. Keith opened the front door to stop him while I slipped into the back seat. "You again?" he said to Keith. "Yes, get in," Keith replied. "I don't think so," Ted said, looking nervous. Colin appeared from the other side of the car. "Get in, or you might get into trouble by morning. There are things about you I'm sure they want to know." Maybe it was just a bluff, but Ted decided to listen. I moved aside as he climbed into the back seat. Colin got in next to him, and I took my place beside them. Keith sat up front. "What's this about?" O'Malley asked, sounding uneasy. "Do you remember our last talk?" Keith asked. "Now we need some names. Who hired you, and who are the other 3 people?" "No way," O'Malley replied, clearly worried. "Let me say it this way," Colin said. "The man on your left is someone you were supposed to follow. Look at him closely." Ted looked over and seemed uncomfortable. "You led those 3 to me, Mr. O'Malley," I said, my voice showing my frustration. "They were told to hurt me and erase any evidence. They thought they had succeeded. Now I'm really upset that they and you have messed up my life. With what the police know and what they'll find out soon, they'll be visiting you before long. Being an accomplice in an attempted crime, how long do you think that could last?" 5 years? Colin suggested, thinking that might be too long. "And if you avoid trouble, Ted," I added, "I will be looking for you. I may not look great, but I'm strong. I had to be to get through this. How would you like to deal with someone like me?" He started to look even more tense. "So," Colin continued, "you give us names, and when we catch the others, we'll let the authorities know you helped." "But we promise the others won't know about this talk," Keith chimed in. "O'Malley, if you don't cooperate, it might look like you're not being honest. So, what will it be?" O'Malley looked worried, beads of sweat appearing on his forehead as he reluctantly nodded. "Who hired you and what were you paid?" Colin asked. "I don't know. You have to trust me. A very tall man came to me. He offered a good sum for following you, and hinted at more work if I kept quiet." His voice was low and tired. "He offered me £3,000. Do you recognize this man?" "No. I think he might be linked to Derek Fanshawe. I remember seeing someone who looked like him in Fanshaw's office years ago, but I can't be sure." "Why do you think that?" Keith asked. "Fanshawe is my usual employer. I often work for him." "What about the others?" "What others?" "The 3 guys involved in this," I said. "Craig Wilson, Lee Harper, Gary Grantham. They are connected to Fanshawe." "What did they get paid?" "They told me they received $10,000 each." Everyone gasped in surprise. "About their car," Keith continued. "What's its registration?" "MZ02QBW, but Craig got rid of it soon after they came back from Newcastle." "You knew they went to Newcastle?" Colin asked. "They said they had finished the job there." "So you knew they took me there," I whispered, feeling angry. "And you let my wife suffer knowing that?" "I don't know your wife, it was just a job for me." I clenched my fists tightly, and Colin saw this. He quickly spoke up. "Listen, you'll be arrested soon, along with them. Stay quiet, and they won't know you've talked. If you tell this, things will get serious, and Alan here will make sure you regret it. Get it?" O'Malley nodded, sweat running down his face. "All right, get out," Keith ordered. As O'Malley left, I felt mixed emotions. We had found out the truth about who wanted me harmed. I didn't care about Fanshaw's reasons, whether it was for my wife, my money, or both. He put my life at risk. Until O'Malley said Fanshaw's name, the situation felt distant. Now, it felt very personal. The man who had threatened my life, my future with my wife, my dreams for children, and tried to harm my business was now living with her. Even worse, she seemed happy with him, unaware that he was the one who had taken so much from her. Now, he was planning to marry her. "The marriage can't happen," I said aloud. The car fell silent, each of us lost in thought. I could tell they were unsure of how to talk to me. We were all in this together, but I felt alone. They had faith in me, but the situation felt different for them. "No, it can't happen," Colin said. "This information goes to the team tomorrow. They won't take long to find the car. Your DNA will be in it somewhere." "But Wilson sold it," David said. "It could be anywhere. Doesn't matter. If it's not destroyed, we'll find it. Just wait and see." We went to the Cross Keys and had a few drinks. Poor Colin had to stick to orange juice since he was driving. He dropped everyone off and then took me home. "You're not going to do anything rash, right?" he asked as I was about to get out of the car. "It's probably not a good idea to tell Greta." Greta dislikes him even more now that she found me again. She won't say much, but I want her to keep me informed about what's happening at home. Don't worry, I'll be careful. Just don't get in the way of the investigation. I nodded and replied, "I'll be careful. My first goal is to keep Anne away from Derek, but I also want him to feel some pressure. Please wait until we finish the case before you do anything about Anne. Promise me, Alan." "I'm sorry, Colin," I replied firmly. "I need to reach Anne as soon as I can. She is in danger, and I won't let her marry him." "Can you promise to keep Derek out of it until we have solid proof?" I promised to try, and he left as I got ready to make a simple dinner of microwaved stew and bread. After eating, I sat and thought about how to confront Derek and how to handle meeting my ex-wife, who I didn't know very well anymore. I had many mixed feelings about her. 23. Trying to talk. Jenny came to work on Tuesday looking happy but tired. "Did it go well?" I asked. "Oh, yes," she said quietly. "It was intense, but we worked things out. I'm glad you encouraged me to go." Jenny managed to get Anne's phone number from her workplace. I had told her that her worries were valid and that it seemed like Derek was responsible for what happened to me. She agreed that we needed to stop the wedding if we could. I called the number and the receptionist asked who I was. "Alan Johnson, her ex-husband," I said. "I need to see her urgently." There was a long pause before she responded. "Mrs. Johnson says she does not want to speak with you or meet you. Please talk to her lawyer." Then the line went dead. That was that. Jenny looked frustrated. "Here," she said, taking the phone from me. "Hello," she said when she was connected. "This is Johnson's. Can you put me through to Mrs. Johnson?" "One moment," she said, and then handed me the phone. "Anne," I said quickly, "please don't hang up. I really need to see you. It's important." "How could you do this? You disappeared for 3 years and now you want to talk to me?" she said angrily. "We're divorced. Marry whoever you want and leave me be." "Anne," I said earnestly, "you need to know the truth." "I know everything. Talk to my lawyer," she retorted before hanging up. Jenny made me some tea to help calm me down. I was upset but realized trying to call again would not help. I needed to see if David could set up a meeting. After work, I went to the police station to give a DNA sample. Then I went to the gym to work off some steam until I was exhausted. Just as I got home, Greta called. "Dad, did you talk to Mom today?" "Yes," I replied flatly. "Well, it made dinner interesting," she laughed. "Mom was really upset and went on and on about you. Derek didn't believe her and thought it was a joke until she said you wanted to meet. He suggested that if you really wanted to see her, it might help. But she was firm about not wanting to meet after everything that happened. Derek thought it might help her feel better faster, but she wasn't interested. I left, and so did the boys. "Thanks for the update, chicken," I said without much enthusiasm. "Remember your promise? I need to figure this out myself, and soon I'll be able to share everything with you." "Oh, by the way," she added, "I had the test done. They're sending the results straight to you." We said nice things to each other before hanging up, and I sat quietly for a moment, thinking. Why was she so upset? Yes, she thought I had left her, but that was 2 years ago and she had moved on. It sounded like there was some bitterness in her voice. After 20 years together and my willingness to explain myself, wouldn't she want to hear my side? I had no answers. They were locked in Anne's mind. What puzzled me most was how to reach her. There are times in life when we think back on important choices and we often ask, why? We know what we did, but look for the reason behind it. Why didn't I go to her office and talk to her directly? I still can't say. I was frustrated and upset with her behavior and the fact she didn't look for me more effectively. Now I felt even angrier at her refusal to speak to me. I can be quite stubborn, especially when it comes to my desire to improve. Sometimes I wonder if I was just as strong-willed before the incident. Brain injuries can change how a person acts. But in the days that followed, I had little time to think about this. On Friday, Jenny and I were set to fly to Hamburg for a meeting with a client on Saturday. The project was complicated, and he wanted to discuss it with us before we worked on a contract on Monday. We had a lot to prepare, including meetings with Jeff and one of our best technicians to finish a presentation and handle the usual details. Our workload was heavy, which might delay delivering what the client wanted, beyond just a prototype, and I sensed that could lead to problems. Jenny was already contacting several companies about the manufacturing, planning to hire them if necessary, although that would be a last resort. During this time, Colin shared 2 important bits of information with me, and I made a choice my daughter thought was quite foolish. On Wednesday evening, Colin called to tell me that the car had been found. Someone was using it without insurance, which led to it being taken. Normally, such vehicles would be crushed, but an attentive officer noticed the registration number and forensics stepped in. Keith was away, so we couldn't talk about it right away. Also on Wednesday, Viv reminded me that Friday was my wedding anniversary, which gave me the idea to send Anne a card. It didn't say happy anniversary. It just said on your anniversary, with space inside for a message. Summoning my strength since writing was hard for me, I wrote, "On the anniversary of our marriage, thank you for the many happy years. I hope you find happiness with your new partner. Please think about seeing me again. I have reasons for being away, and you don't know everything. Alan." On Thursday, Colin called to tell me that Derek's accounts were being looked at. Derek thought the police were involved, but Colin didn't explain more. On Friday, Greta's DNA results came back. I had sent my samples to the same lab, and the report confirmed that Greta is my daughter. Jenny and I were getting ready to take an evening flight to Hamburg when Greta called while I waited for the taxi. "Hey, Dad," she sounded happy. "That was bold." "What do you mean?" "The card," she said. "Mom was really mad. She went off at Derek about knowing everything about your past and promised to make sure you faced the music for what she calls your campaign. Derek told her the handwriting didn't match mine, and that made her think, but she just called it another one of your tricks to grab her attention." "Well," she said, "it's not going to work. Dad, she's even more determined not to see or talk to you now." "Oh." I must have sounded upset because her reaction was one of surprise. "Goodness, Dad," she said seriously. "You didn't think sending a card would help, did you? You can be so out of touch sometimes." "I guess I can be," I replied. The trip hadn't gone as I wanted, except for a nice Sunday in Hamburg and enjoying the food by the water. Jenny was feeling down, and I was a bit gloomy on Monday night. We hugged briefly before going to sleep. On Tuesday, as soon as I got back to the office after a rough flight, I got a call from David. "You know the court hearing is Thursday?" he said right away. I had actually forgotten. "I thought you were on top of that," I replied a bit sharply. "Bad trip?" he guessed. "Couldn't be worse?" "Anyway," he continued, "you may need to prove your identity, so you should be there, just in case, you know." "Got it," I said. "That brings up 2 things. First, I've tried to contact Anne, but she won't see me. Can you ask her for a meeting on my behalf before the court date? Second, I'll be in court, but only to watch. I want to avoid seeing her if I can." "I understand," he replied, sounding slightly resigned. "I'll talk to her." Please don't mention my past problems, David. I want her to meet me thinking I've moved on. I want to see her reaction when she finds out the truth, and make sure Derek isn't there when we meet. Okay. He seemed to try hard. He called me back in less than an hour. Sorry, my friend, he said sympathetically. Your ex is quite upset. I don't know what you wrote, but she definitely didn't like it. I suggested that she might get a better offer from you if she met with you, but she wants the court to decide instead. I even mentioned that she could end up with less than what she has now, but she didn't seem to care. She's not interested in anything you might offer. Okay, we will go ahead with the court hearing and then try to talk to her again. If what you say is true and she has challenges ahead, she might be more willing to consider a little kindness from me. I think that could be hard for her to accept, but Derek might be able to convince her since he needs as much financial support as he can get. We'll see what happens. Jeff and I spent all day Wednesday talking about the need to expand. We agreed that it was very important and that we would need our own money since the banks weren't willing to help. I called David to share our plans and he took note of the important numbers. He mentioned it was short notice, but we needed to present everything to the judge at the hearing the next day. I explained the reasons behind our plans, especially the unsuccessful trip to Germany, which he thought could affect the judge's decision. We said goodbye until the next day. He also told me he had talked about the police's interest in Anne's partner and had asked for the hearing to be postponed, but that request was turned down. The next day, I was in court. My ex-wife seemed very focused on expressing her feelings about her former husband being absent and the pain it had caused her. I thought she also wanted to support the man she felt had been there for her, but her wish for closure was mixed with a desire for revenge. I could end everything, but I wasn't going to. Colin's well-being was my priority. We arrived early, and I sat in the back of the visitors area. Derek, Anne, her lawyer, and their legal team walked in. They noticed I was there and seemed to wonder why. I smiled at Anne, but she did not respond, which frustrated me. I had always treated her kindly, yet she was ignoring me. This only made me more determined to reveal my plans on my own terms. There were several legal statements and steps, followed by arguments from the legal teams on each side, most of which were hard for me to follow. The judge already had the details of each party's assets and was listening to arguments from both sides. Anne's lawyer spoke first since Anne was the one bringing the case. It soon became clear that she wanted more than half of my savings and the monthly support I was giving her and the children. I had about £6 million in different investments, and she was asking for $4 million, $3 million for herself for her support over 20 years, and $1 million for the children to be kept in trust. What really unsettled me was what came next. Anne's lawyer, a woman with a clear and calm way of speaking, argued for Anne to receive a share in my company, which would give her 40% of the profits. Being a limited company, this meant she would have a say in company decisions. My lawyer confirmed the assets with the judge and mentioned the company needed my financial support to grow. This would create more jobs and increase profits for Anne if she had a stake in the company, although it would require some of my resources. He reminded me of my history of investing back into our business. After a 2-hour break, David, my lawyer, and I went out for a drink. He mentioned that the judge was likely to support our case based on past experiences. He felt confident we would get a good result. He was right. Though it took some time for the judge to speak, I understood most of what he said. He observed that the house had already been sold and all the money had been given to Anne, which he considered very fair. Since I bought the house, I had essentially given her my share. This surprised Anne's side. She was upset, and Derek looked confused. Until that moment, Anne had not realized I had taken over ownership of the house. The judge also noted that Anne was now in a new relationship and had a good income from her job. Because of this, he decided I did not need to pay her support, but assessed my contribution to the kids' costs to be about 1/3 of what I had been paying. He pointed out that I had been paying much more than necessary for the past 2.5 years. He reminded her that if the children chose to live with me at any time, the payments to her would stop but could be requested later from her. She was entitled to a share in the business, and I was to give her 30% of my shares. Since it was a limited company, she could only sell the shares to me or to Jeff. She would receive dividends but could not sell the company's assets. Her shares would make up 24%. I would hold 56%, and Jeff would have 20%. Since her share in dividends would only grow if the company did well, he said I could reinvest my resources to expand the firm before we split the remaining profits $5,050 with her. This announcement caused a stir among Anne's group. Well, I thought, David had warned her, but the judge had more to say. It seems, he stated, that there are police investigations regarding Mr. Janssen. Therefore, while Mr. Janssen must provide support for the children immediately, the rest of the decision will be on hold until these issues are sorted out. I am therefore postponing these proceedings indefinitely. So Anne and Derek would receive nothing until the trial about the people who had harmed me was over. There was a lot of conversation between Anne, Derek, and their lawyers. I can't deny I felt a strong sense of satisfaction with the outcome. In fact, I was delighted. Maybe now she would talk. David showed great self-control. He didn't rush over to congratulate me, but waited until later at the pub. "I can't believe the judge did that," David said. The lawyer seemed happy with himself. "I told you he would give us a good deal," he replied. "Judges have a lot of power when deciding on support matters. Our judge is very fair and picked up on a hint of greed in your ex-wife's request. While he might not have punished her on purpose, the outcome looked different." That night, after another therapy session, Greta called. "Dad, it's quiet at home. I stepped out for a bit because they keep talking in circles about the court case this morning. Derek is trying not to say I told you so, but I can tell he wants to. Mom looks really sad. Is it true they've lost?" "Well, chicken, it's not really about winning or losing. They just didn't get what they hoped for." "Dad, Mom and Derek were talking, and now Derek thinks you're pretending, like the police will come for you and Mr. Lombard. Mom isn't so sure. The boys heard them, and now they're wondering why they haven't seen you. They're upset, Dad." She took a breath. "Can I bring them over?" "Yes, that would be good. Tomorrow?" "I'll bring them after tea." "Greta, you need to tell them how I look. Do it on the way, not at home, and make sure they keep the visit a secret. Things are getting close to being settled here. I'll tell you everything I can when you come alone." "Okay, Dad." She sounded happy. "See you tomorrow." I found Derek's ideas about the judge's comments interesting. He clearly thought I was gone for good. He was in for quite a surprise. Still, it kept his mind off the fact that the police were looking into him. I realized Greta deserved to know what was really going on. I hoped she could handle it. The next day was Friday, and Jenny was supposed to visit for the weekend. But when she found out the boys were coming over, she decided to stay home until they left. "They'll have enough to deal with getting used to the new you," she laughed, "without having to meet your girlfriend too. And just think, Greta would have to accept that you have 2 girlfriends. I bet she'd be impressed." I wasn't so sure, but I appreciated her kindness. I stopped by the gym on my way home. I know I often mention therapy and the gym, but they were really important for my recovery. My body was growing stronger, with muscles and tendons getting tighter. It was hard work and took up much of my time. I also believed it helped with my focus and memory. After my shower and while making some of Jan's favorite cookies, the doorbell rang. When I answered it, I recognized them right away. They seemed a lot older and taller than I remembered. Jan looked at me, his lip shaking a bit, while Stefan held Greta's hand, looking a bit worried. We stood on the doorstep for what felt like a long time, but it was probably just a few seconds. "Come in, boys," I said, stepping aside to let Greta show them to the living room. But they had other plans and raced up the stairs to their rooms. We could hear their excited voices as they found their old things and saw their posters still hanging on the walls. Greta looked a bit frustrated. "They're just boys, Greta," I told her gently. "Give them a moment." They came rushing down the stairs and into the kitchen. "Biscuits, Steph!" shouted Jan. "Dad made biscuits!" We followed them into the room. Jan dove for the biscuits, and Stefan was right behind him. Greta and I exchanged smiles. The mood was lightening. They felt at home. "Sit down, boys," I said, and they plopped down at the table, eager to have some biscuits. I took a chair across from them while Greta poured glasses of milk. "I remember these biscuits, Dad," said Stefan, sounding a bit shy. I smiled and Jan nearly spilled his milk. I raised an eyebrow in surprise, and both boys laughed. Greta looked a bit annoyed, and I placed my hand over hers. "Dad, you look funny when you smile," Jan said, still giggling. "It's a bit crooked." "I'm glad you think I'm funny," I replied with a grin. "Did it hurt when the men hurt you?" asked Stefan, sounding a bit braver. "I'm sorry, Stefan," I said. "I don't remember anything about that time." "Greta said you were in a coma for nearly a year," added Jan. We talked about my recovery, and the boys became more relaxed. They seemed to take some pride in their dad, even if I looked a bit rough. But soon, the harder questions came. "Now that you're back, Dad," Stefan started, "are you going back to Mum soon?" "Stefan, it's not that simple," I said. "Mum is with someone else now. We are divorced, and she's getting married again next week, so I don't think that's going to happen. But when she sees you, she'll regret it, and she will stop the wedding. Then you could be together again," he said earnestly. "I wish it were that easy, chicken," I replied gently. "It's been 2 years, and she cares for Derek now." "But he's so boring," Jan exclaimed, getting frustrated with my answers. "You don't understand, Dad. He never does anything with us. He just watches Mom all the time. It's so annoying." He made a gagging noise, and the others laughed. "It's true, Dad," said Greta. "I think Mom isn't completely happy. She's marrying him because she thinks he's the best choice. She doesn't sing around the house like she used to." "And you and Mom used to laugh a lot," Stefan added. "You used to joke and have fun together. Honestly, it's so dull," said Jan. Hearing that made me sad. The thought of a dull family without laughter hurt deeply. I remembered the fun times we had playing in the garden. "And," Greta said, "he never helps at home. You used to cook, bake, clean, and do laundry. You shared chores with Mum. He just comes home and relaxes while Mum does everything and works too. I help out, though." "Dad?" Jan asked before I could answer. "Yes, Jan? If Mum marries Fanny?" "Fanny? That's what we call him," Stefan said with a smile while Greta turned a bit red. "Go on, Jan," I encouraged, wanting to keep things going. "If she marries him, I want to come live with you." There it was. "So do I," Stefan added. "Can we?" I struggled to find the right words again. As I thought, Greta said something that worried me. "I'd like to join you too, Dad," she said softly. "I don't like how he looks at me." I decided to set that aside for now, even though it troubled me. I knew I would have to handle it later. "Kids," I said, "you can live here if you want, but don't you think it would be hard on Mum? She cares about you, and we would need to change a lot of plans. Mum has custody, and I only get to visit. That would need to be changed, and I doubt Mum would go along with it." A heavy silence filled the room. "I'm sorry," I added. "I didn't make the rules." "Please, Dad," Greta urged. "Talk to Mum. She's planning to marry him soon. I'm sure she'd think differently if she talked to you. That marriage feels wrong." I agreed with her silently. When she learned more, she would see how wrong it was, but now was not the time for that talk. It was time to plan with the kids. I explained that there were things their mother shouldn't know yet, and I needed to ensure they didn't accidentally share anything. They would find out soon enough. I said I had tried to talk to her, but she refused. "She's very upset with me," I explained, "because of what she thinks I've done, but I can't tell her everything since it might affect police matters. I'll try to contact her again, and if that doesn't work, I might have to surprise her later once I know more." "Derek thought the police were looking into Uncle David," Jan said. "Well, they're not," I replied, "but I can't go into more detail." "Can we tell her we've seen you?" Greta asked. "She might want to meet if she thinks you're taking us away." I hadn't thought about that before. There was a chance they might accidentally say too much. If Derek found out I was hurt, he could warn those who caused it. I decided to take that chance. "Okay," I said. "You can tell her we've met, but there will be rules. Kids, this is very important. One mistake could put everything at risk. Please, don't let me down." "We won't, Dad," they promised. I wished I could trust them completely. "Rule 1, I said. No comments about my appearance. I'm doing okay. That's all she needs to know. She knows where I live, and it's important she doesn't find out about my injuries. Do you understand? They nodded. Rule 2. Don't mention what happened to me. If she asks why I left, tell her she can talk to me. You can say I didn't leave for someone else. That's not true, and I can prove it. So it's best she doesn't know what I've been through. Agreed? They nodded. Rule 3. Don't give her any information unless she asks for it. Answer her questions, but don't offer anything extra. Understood? They nodded. If she asks if I'm with someone else right now, you boys don't know. Greta knows. Just tell her to talk to Greta. But you can see there's no one living with me at the moment. Please, boys, I said gently. Don't let me down. You might spoil important work the police are doing to find out who is responsible for this. Okay? For the first time, Yan came around the table and hugged me. I felt touched. It's not easy for a teenager to show affection like that. Stefan took that as a good sign and sat on my knee, his arm around my neck. I blinked back tears. Greta's eyes were watery too. We felt like a family again, even if things weren't perfect. It was time for them to leave. They hugged me, and Greta kissed my cheek. Greta, I whispered, come back soon. I have things to share. She nodded and smiled. Then they were gone. I questioned if I was making the right choice. Maybe it would have been better to stay away from Anne and let her live her life without me. She could easily find someone else, and knowing her, she might move on quickly. I scolded myself. Despite my feelings, she waited a year and seemed to have turned away others for a while. I worried she wouldn't get past how I looked. I wasn't happy living with my current situation and felt a sense of inadequacy. My voice was the same, but even though I looked different, I still felt unworthy of her love. It seemed like she believed what others said about me. I couldn't picture us together, but eventually she would see Derek's true character before he faced the consequences. A wave of hopelessness washed over me. I felt down and dreaded the thought of being alone. What woman would want to be with someone like me? I couldn't ask Jenny for help. She deserved better. I broke down, feeling overwhelmed. My thoughts spiraled until the phone rang. It was Jenny. Are you ready for me? She asked, reminding me it was getting late. Yes, I replied, though my voice showed my worry. I'll be there in a few minutes, she assured me. When she arrived, she wrapped her arms around me, and I found comfort in her support. We spent the weekend together, and I thought Greta might contact me, but I didn't hear from her. I was curious about what had happened at the house. Like Trish, Jenny always knew how to lift my spirits. She kept me engaged during our time at home and on our long walks, where I shared my thoughts about not being able to talk to Anne directly. When Jenny gave her opinion, I told her that I thought David should be the one to tell Anne about what was going on. If you're thinking of having someone else tell her, Trish would be a good choice because she knows their history, Jenny suggested. Why not give her a call? I appreciated her insight and let her know. That's why I'm here for you, she replied, smiling. We turned our focus back to finding a solution. After thinking for a moment, she added, why not text Greta to see if there's a pre-wedding party? Anne might be more open to talking if Trish shows up unexpectedly. I really appreciate you helping me think of these things, I said. She smiled, pleased with the idea. Encouraged by her suggestions, I sent a message to Trish and contacted Greta. Trish said she could come over if needed. Greta replied with the details of a gathering at the pub. I'll be there Thursday at 7:30. Love you, she wrote. I called Trish again, and she confirmed she could come on Thursday, but would need to leave early on Friday. I thanked her for her support, especially since I'd been in the hospital. On Monday, David called to tell me he had tried to arrange a meeting with Anne, but hadn't succeeded. Jenny's company that night was comforting, and she joined us for drinks at the Cross Keys. As we settled in, Colin shared, your DNA was found in the car, but I probably shouldn't tell you that. You should be prepared for some arrests soon. Do you know when? I asked, worried about the timing of Anne's wedding. I can't say, Colin replied seriously. But when it happens, everyone involved will be taken in at once, so they'll need to plan it well. Keith added helpfully, from what I've seen, it's unlikely to happen this week. They won't act over the weekend. Too much planning would be needed. Maybe Monday or Tuesday at the earliest. So the wedding will go on, I said sadly. Anne might lose Derek right after she gets him. Have you thought about their honeymoon? If Derek goes to Spain, he might not come back. I'm sure they'll keep an eye on him, Colin said. They can't let him leave the country. I'm sure of that. I tried to get Anne to meet with you again, said David. No luck, though. I can't believe how stubborn she is. I can, I replied with a laugh. I remember our little arguments, nothing serious, but once she decides something, it's hard to change her mind. Trish is coming over tomorrow, and we're planning to join her pre-wedding gathering. She'll talk to me then. So, said Jenny, speaking up for the first time, everything will be clear in a few days. That should make you feel better, Alan. The others nodded in agreement. Now, said Colin, I'm sure O'Malley and the other three will be found guilty, but there's no guarantee we can prove anything against Derek. If he has a good lawyer, he might avoid trouble. David added, I bet the three will be held, but Derek will probably get out on bail. O'Malley's outcome will depend on whether he helps the authorities. It could take 6 months before the trial, Colin noted. The judges will send them for trial at the Crown Court, but there are delays with cases. I think you should prepare yourself for the chance that Derek will try to convince Anne that he had nothing to do with any of this, David warned. We know he is very good at lying. The room fell quiet. We understood the situation, but court cases are often unpredictable. Nothing was certain. I felt growing frustration that he might avoid facing the consequences for his actions against me. I decided right then that he wouldn't get away easily. If the court couldn't bring justice, I would find a way. I must have looked determined. Don't worry about things you can't control, David said. You don't know how Anne will react. She will soon learn that Derek isn't completely honest, but she knows you are truthful. Just wait and see, Alan. As usual, he had a point. I nodded, and Jenny gave my arm a reassuring squeeze. Some others raised their eyebrows. I chose to ignore them. Jenny said she would head back to her flat. She seemed to want to distance herself from Trish, as if to show I had 2 separate relationships. I understood that well enough. I won't expect you at work tomorrow, she said. Sort things out with Trish first. You need to know what she plans to share. When Trish arrived, it was mid-afternoon. We talked about how she would approach the situation, and I quickly saw she was right. Was there any other choice? Trish and I walked into the pub at 8. It wasn't hard to find the gathering because Greta was part of the group. There were 15 people sitting at tables on one side of the main lounge. I recognized Anne's parents, along with her brother and sister. The others seemed to be relatives and friends. We entered from an adjoining room, so Anne couldn't see us. In the past, each room had a door, but now there were only openings leading to the next space. Trish led me to a table in an empty room, around the corner and out of sight from everyone. You'll hear everything from here. I think Anne will want to talk to you when I'm done with her. Are you sure about this? Yes. She needs to know the full story. I can't let her marry Derek without knowing the truth. Do you have the pictures? Yes, and trust me, Alan, I can't wait to show them to you. She walked away from the table, and I caught her reflection in the mirror across the room. Mrs. Johnson? I heard her voice call out. Yes! Anne's tone made me feel angry again. I'm sorry to interrupt your gathering, but this is important. I'm here for your ex-husband. He wants to speak with you. He wants you to know. I'm not interested. Tell him he's caused enough trouble already. He shouldn't be trying to confuse me just before my wedding. I have a lawyer. He should talk to him. Mrs. Johnson, please. It's really better for you if you talk to him directly. Just leave us alone, Miss O'Toole. Mother, Greta spoke up. Why are you being so difficult? Maybe Miss O'Toole can explain what he wants to say. Fine, Anne said, sounding impatient. Miss O'Toole, go ahead. The room quieted, everyone listening in. May I sit down? Trish asked, but she stayed standing. I have some photographs. Some of these you've seen before. Here. I watched her lay out the photos on the table one by one. I've seen them before, Anne replied, trying to stay calm. It's him and his other woman. Yes, taken at the hotel, but look at the date and time on this one, and this one from the restaurant just moments later. This was the day he went missing. Yes, Anne was growing frustrated. That shows them together in the foyer, and that one has them buying their tickets. So what? Before I show you the next one, look closely at these two again. Do you recognize that man? He seems familiar. Yes. Now this next photo, taken 3 minutes after the last one. But a smile appeared as uncertainty crossed Anne's face. I've never seen this one before, she finally admitted. The man with your ex and the woman, that's her husband. The woman is Alan's cousin from Sweden. They happened to meet at the hotel while Alan was getting tickets for both of them. Alan got the tickets for her last minute when her husband had to attend to business. The discussion went on. That's Alan leaving the station with someone, but Mrs. Janssen, notice he's not with a woman. Do you see why you should talk to him? He left us without a word, so there must be someone else. I have a letter from him saying he started a new life and told me to forget about him. That caught me off guard, but Trish continued. Yes, he stopped contacting you. I have another photo. It's hard to look at. You should prepare yourself. There was silence before she said, That's terrible. Who is that? What happened to his face? He's barely recognizable. What does this have to do with... Please note the time and date. Same day, just a few hours later. Yes, but I don't... That's your ex-husband, Mrs. Janssen. A shocked cry echoed, and the group became loud with confusion. No, you've got it wrong. Why are you doing this to me? What did I do to deserve this? Please leave. Mrs. Janssen. Just go, get out. More voices shouted, and then Greta's voice broke through. DNA! What? Anne asked as the room quieted down. DNA proof, Mom, it's true, it's Dad. Silence fell again. But how? We needed proof, so I took a DNA test. He's my father. But I don't understand, I contacted the hospital. This was Newcastle General. I'm a nurse there, and I helped admit him. Newcastle? He was supposed to be in York. Mrs. Janssen, will you see your ex-husband now? There was a pause, then a quiet, Yes, of course. Chairs moved as they walked toward the bench where I sat. Hello, Anne. You're hard to reach. Confusion crossed her face before fear and then anger took over. Alan, it's you, isn't it? Yes. You saw me at that restaurant and said nothing. You danced with me at dinner and stayed silent. Why are you playing games? Sit down, Anne, I said firmly. She jumped at my tone but took a seat. I'll explain everything and then you can go. I know you don't want to stay longer than you have to. She opened her mouth, but I continued. I don't remember much from the past. Trish told me what I know. I still can't recall the day I was taken to the hospital in Newcastle. I was admitted with serious injuries. My head was hurt badly and my face was unrecognizable. That was just part of it. I had broken ribs and internal injuries that I won't detail here. I went through a long recovery. My attackers took everything from me and left me in a bad state. There was no way they could identify me afterward. The medics thought the injuries were so severe they believed I might not survive, so I was put into a coma for nearly a year. During that time, I wouldn't have been able to tell you where I was. You mentioned a letter. How could I have written one in my condition? Before I woke up, the doctors weren't hopeful for my recovery, considering how long I had been unconscious. Without any family present to decide about my care, they had to get permission from the court. Even after they received permission to stop the life support, I continued to breathe. Then came many months of rehabilitation. My case was unusual because I had no memories to build from, not even my name. I had to learn how to talk again, and my new look made it hard to communicate. The process was tough, and it took a long time. At first, the medical team and the police didn't believe my story about forgetfulness. They thought I might be hiding something, maybe related to drugs. You wouldn't believe how long I was questioned until they finally accepted what I was saying. You should know that a lot of what I remember has been told to me because my short-term memory is still weak, but my long-term memory is starting to come back. I think it was in January that I remembered my name and found out I lived in Sale. Trish helped me look up the election records for Sale, which showed my address, that I was married to you, and that we had a daughter named Greta. While I was walking in Sale, I saw David's name on the doorplate. Since then, with help from friends, especially David, I've been able to recall details about my attackers and what happened. Anne seemed calmer now, but I could see she was affected by my story. I wasn't sure if what I saw in her eyes was love or sympathy. Her voice had a gentler tone. Why didn't you come to me when you remembered who I was? She asked. I didn't know you. She looked shocked. I had forgotten you, I explained. I only realized who you were when you walked into the restaurant. When you spoke to me, and I recognized your perfume, the same one I bought you, it brought back a rush of memories. I was overwhelmed and had to leave. I don't know what to say, she replied, tears starting to fill her eyes. When I think of you being all alone during that time, That was all it took for her to start softly crying. I felt sorry for her, but that was all I could do. I tried to comfort her, but might have made it worse. I wasn't lonely, Anne. I didn't know anything at all. A nurse took a liking to me and would spend time with me outside of her shifts. As you can guess, it was Trish O'Toole, so you don't need to worry about that. In fact, I am in a relationship with her. I didn't remember you or anyone else. Trish was my whole world. She encouraged me to come here and fix my life. That's why she's here now. She's your girlfriend? Anne asked, wiping her eyes. Trish had been quiet until now, and we hadn't even noticed her there. But now she spoke up. One of them. He has another too. Anne ignored that comment, but it was clear it affected her. But you knew me at the dance and said nothing. There's a reason for that. The police asked me to keep my identity secret until they made their arrests. They've identified some suspects who they think were involved. People from this area. But I've been trying to talk to you. For 3 weeks I've been trying. You could have known long ago. But I'm your wife. In that moment I felt frustrated. No, you are not my wife. You divorced me, remember? You are trying to harm my company for your own benefit, even though I supported you through everything. How long did you really try to find me? Don't answer. I already know. If you were missing, I would still be searching for you. You know that. Everyone said my disappearance was not like me. They didn't believe I had left with someone else, but you did. You believed Derek. You loved me for 20 years, yet you believed him, so don't start saying you're my wife. I got up and walked away. Trish followed me. We got into the car, and she drove. Are you satisfied? She asked with a hint of bitterness. No, I said. She needed to hear the truth. I told her. She knows now she has been misled. She sees that she divorced an innocent man, a man who cared for her. I haven't mentioned that Derek could be linked to my troubles. I have a new life with 2 great women. I don't need her anymore. She let me down. Okay. She understood not to argue, but she comforted me that night, holding me close as we fell asleep. As I drifted off, I thought of Anne. I knew she had been there for me for many years, and we had shared love. I felt I owed her something. But after the last 2 years and her choices, combined with my foggy memories, it seemed impossible for us to restart our relationship. That feeling was unpleasant. My last thought was that she wouldn't even give me a chance. Trish and I woke up early the next morning. She had to hit the road, and it was Friday. Fridays in Britain can be very busy. She needed to head back to Newcastle for her last weekend before she finished for good. She would return the Thursday before her flight on Friday. That would be the last time I would see her for a long while. I had taken the day off work and asked Jenny to come over at lunchtime to catch me up on our upcoming appointments. She agreed to stay for the weekend, knowing it was Anne's wedding on Saturday, and I was thankful for her support. I spent the morning changing the bed because I didn't want Jenny to sleep in the same sheets I used the night before. After that, I went shopping for our meals for the weekend. I made some soup for lunch, and she arrived just in time to join me. During our simple meal, I shared what happened the night before with Anne. You still have feelings for her, then? She said after I finished. No, I don't think so. I have thoughts about how everything turned out, but we've talked about it before. Alan, if you reacted so strongly to something Anne said, you do feel something for her. If you say so, I replied, wondering if she might be right. So, she still doesn't know about Derek's part in your troubles? No. I won't say anything unless she asks. By this time tomorrow, she'll be married. She'll have to deal with that. Alan, that isn't kind. It feels mean. I'm sorry, Jenny, but she has made her choices. You know what they say. Alan, we've talked about this. She gave you 20 years of love. I can't imagine how she's feeling right now. We might have kept talking if the doorbell hadn't rung. Jenny answered the door, and I went with her to see who was there. When she opened the door, Anne's brother Peter and Greta were standing there. For a moment, we were surprised. Peter looked at Jenny with admiration. I had seen other men look at her like that, and it made me feel lucky. Greta looked at Jenny, clearly meeting her for the first time. "Hello," Jenny said with a warm smile. "Hello," Greta replied. "I'm Greta." "It's so nice to meet you, Greta. I'm Jenny Tasker, your dad's assistant. This is Peter Drayton, Mom's brother." I remembered him from the night before. He was a nice-looking guy, but seemed a bit shy around women. His shyness had kept him single into his 30s. "It's nice to meet you, Peter," Jenny said. "Please come in." I noticed Peter blush, which made me smile to myself. I excused myself to the kitchen and settled in before they joined me. When they came into the room, I stood up again. "Peter," I said warmly, "it's great to see you again." We shook hands. "Come here, Greta." She hugged me. Peter's expression changed when he saw my head. He swallowed hard but smiled. Greta must have said something to him. I was thankful he didn't make any comments. I had heard enough. "Dad," Greta began, "Mom has called off the wedding. She's very upset. Derek is quite angry, saying you, Jeff, and David are trying to ruin things." "Alan," Peter said, occasionally glancing at Jenny, "I don't know what you told her last night, but she came back quite subdued. She looked unhappy and said she wanted to go home." "Well, Peter," I replied, "I think I lost my temper. She was upset I hadn't told her I was around and who I was, saying she had a right to know because we were married. I reminded her that since she divorced me, she didn't have any claims on me anymore. She didn't really look for me, and she believed the other woman's story too easily. You know it's hard to come back after 2 years and see your ex-wife with someone new. We all wondered why you waited until just before her wedding. Hey, I've been trying to talk to her for 3 weeks. She wouldn't respond, so don't say it was just before the wedding. You clearly wanted to prevent the marriage. Am I right? Not really. What she does with her life isn't my concern anymore. We're divorced, remember? I wanted her to see the real truth. She had held on to her anger for too long without a good reason. But Greta said you've been back for months. Why wait so long? Peter asked. Okay, Peter. The police told me to keep quiet. I can share some details with you. I can't tell you everything, but I hope this helps. The pictures Trish showed Anne had a man watching my cousin and me. You know that the other woman is my cousin and her husband? He nodded. A friend took me to meet that man who lives nearby. He tricked me into getting into a car by saying my client needed to talk about our contract. The car was a red Toyota. I ended up on an empty lot in Newcastle after being taken there. It seems 2 other men were with the driver. The police think someone hired them to target me, so it wasn't just a random event. The police have been collecting evidence since I got back. They want me to stay quiet and asked me not to contact Anne. At first, I didn't recognize Anne due to my memory problems, but when I did, it was too late. I tried to talk to her, but she wouldn't listen. Can you imagine how Anne felt, thinking the man she married had left her for someone else, only to find out he was a victim of an attack? I tried to see her many times, but she turned me away each time. Trish stepped in, and you saw what happened then. Is that enough explanation for you? I asked. Peter took a moment to think about what I had said. I remember, Peter said. Last year, around March, Anne mentioned getting a letter from you. You said you were with someone else and wouldn't come back. That's when she became really bitter. Before that, she thought you might return. She showed me the letter. It was cold and not like you at all. But there it was, clear and direct. So, Peter, even you didn't believe I would write such a letter, yet she believed it right away. How could I have written that when I had forgotten everyone here? I guess my signature was on it. Have you seen my signature since I could write again? I handed him a piece of paper with my signature. Peter looked at it and sighed. It was fake. I smiled, and we left it at that. There was nothing more to say. When they were leaving, Greta gave me her usual hug, and Peter shook my hand. After they went, Jenny hugged me. You stayed calm, she said with a smile. If they think carefully, they'll see Derek's role in what happened to you. She paused, then added with a cheerful tone, Now it's time for you to rest. Laughter filled the air as we shared a light moment. enjoying some happiness after a long time of seriousness. I really needed that, I finally said. Life has been too serious for too long. Good, Jenny replied happily. Laughter is sometimes the best medicine. I jokingly pulled her closer and we began to talk about Peter. What do you think of him? I asked, surprising myself. He's really good looking, she replied after a moment. But he's shy, I said. He wouldn't think you would like him. I'm not. I have you. I explained how Peter admired her but felt nervous around her. You might need to make the first move, I suggested with a smile. We both laughed, and in that moment, I felt a strong bond between us. After some fun back and forth, we enjoyed a close moment together, one that made our connection even stronger. As we relaxed afterward, she sighed happily. You're enough for me, she said, leaning against me. I didn't reply right away, thinking about her words and what our connection meant. I felt like our relationship was not quite equal. She deserved someone who could match her fully. Still, with her by my side, I chose to enjoy the present and let things unfold naturally. Then I remembered what Greta had said about the wedding. Peter had drawn my thoughts away from Anne to my own issues, but now I was processing the news Greta had shared. Anne had called off the wedding. A wave of relief washed over me. Without that commitment, Derek no longer had any hold over her. I wondered if Anne would connect my recovery to the letter she received. She was sharp enough to notice, but if she didn't catch on, I imagined Peter might mention it. Would she suspect Derek? I wished I could hear what was happening in that house. Yet I thought of Gretash would certainly stay alert, and I might still learn about what was going on. We got ready to go out for dinner, then spent a couple of hours at a pub before heading home, this time for a good night's sleep. The evening was calm, filled with conversations that avoided the ongoing drama, not because we were trying to avoid it, but simply because we felt relaxed with each other. On Saturday morning, we woke up late, still in our robes at the kitchen table, looking at the news, when the doorbell rang. I shuffled to answer it and saw Greta standing there. When I opened the door, she walked past me, lugging 2 suitcases. She dropped them and hugged me tightly. "Dad," she said, worry in her voice, "can I stay here? I can't take that house anymore." "Looks like you really wanted an answer from me." I smiled, motioning to her bags. "You can stay today and tonight, and we can talk about what comes next. Does your mom know where you are?" "No. I left a note in my room saying I left because I couldn't handle living with him anymore." "We need to let her know. She'll be worried." She nodded and walked into the kitchen, where she stopped in the doorway as Jenny spoke. Jenny always seemed calm about everything. "Hi, Greta," she said. "Oh." "Hi," Greta said, her voice a little shaky. "You know where everything is," Jenny said, getting ready. "I'll go get dressed now." She walked into the hall, looking unhappy. "Change that outfit," she muttered as she went by me and headed upstairs. I couldn't tell how she was feeling. In the kitchen, Greta sat at the table with a glass of milk in front of her. "What's going on, Dad?" It was clear she was feeling tense. "What's she doing here?" she asked. "She is called Jenny," I replied firmly, "and it's not your place to question her." "But you're with Trish. I can't believe you're involved with her." "Greta, I won't allow you to be rude to my friends. If you can't accept Jenny, maybe you should go back to your mother. Just go home." "But Dad..." "I mean it, Greta. Go home. Your mother misunderstood things and now you're jumping to conclusions. Just go home." Tears started to form in her eyes. I remembered her at 12, using the same look to get her way, but this time I stood firm. Finally, the tension got to me and I picked up my phone. I called Trish. She answered, sounding a bit rushed from packing. "Trish," I said, "can you talk to Greta? She wants to say something." "I can do that. I could use a break." Greta looked at me, worried, shaking her head. "No, Greta, you need to talk to Trish." With hesitation, she took the phone. "Trish," she said, a bit awkwardly, "did you know that Dad is with Jenny?" "I don't understand. But how can you accept—" "When?" There was a pause as Trish thought about it. "But both of you at the same time?" "Oh, thanks. Will we see you before you go?" "Okay, thanks. Bye." Greta looked at me, regret on her face. "I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know." "No, Greta, you didn't. I know 2 very caring women. Trish mentioned she's moving away on Friday? Yes, she said quietly. She told me you deserve a friend since she's leaving. She's happy for you with Jenny. She likes her. Jenny likes her too, I chuckled. They make a great team against me. You don't. No, Greta, nothing unusual like that. She turned a bit red. Just then, Jenny came down, dressed and apparently listening from the hallway. Greta looked up, feeling a bit shy. I'm sorry, Jenny, I jumped to conclusions. Come here, Jenny said, hugging her. We all care about your dad. There's a lot you don't know, but he's been great to me. He's really made a difference in my life. Greta nodded and turned to me. Can I stay, Dad? I promise I won't cause any trouble. She smiled playfully. Yes, of course, I answered. But we need to let your mother know where you are. She has enough to handle right now with the wedding and everything about Derek. The last thing she needs is to worry about you vanishing. I realized I didn't have her home number, but Greta had it. I called it. Derek answered sharply. Derek, it's Alan. I need to talk to Anne about— Not interested, he cut in. You've made enough trouble. She's with me now, so just stay away. And he hung up. I let out a sigh. Greta, I said, feeling down. Can you reach Mum on her mobile? Derek won't let me talk to her. Greta's face changed as she dialed and handed me the phone. Anne answered. Greta, where are you? What's happening? Her voice was full of worry. Anne, I said to calm her. It's Alan. Don't worry, Greta is with me. I tried to call you at home, but Derek wouldn't let me talk to you. I just want you to know she's safe here and wants to stay the night. Is that okay? Oh, it's you, Anne said flatly. Yes, I suppose she can stay. Are you going to turn her against me? Please, Anne, don't think that way. You know I wouldn't do that. We've always worked together for the kids. I'm sorry, she said. I shouldn't think badly of you after everything. No, Anne, I replied quickly. I'm sorry for how I acted when we met. I was emotional. You were surprised, and I shouldn't have reacted that way. Can you forgive me? Of course, she said, sounding more hopeful. We should meet to talk about sharing time with the kids, but Greta can stay as long as you both want. She's having a hard time with Derek. I canceled the wedding, so things aren't great here. I understand. I'll send her back soon. I think you could use her right now. We said our goodbyes, and I felt relieved after our talk. Even though Greta shook her head, I thought that in the end, she would agree to return home. That Saturday evening, we sat in the living room after a walk in the sunny afternoon that I hoped would help Jenny and Greta connect. Thankfully, it worked. By the time we got home, they had become good friends, and I felt less alone. I knew it was time to talk about what Greta might be worried about when the phone rang. It was Colin. Alan, he said, I need you to promise not to tell anyone about what I'm about to say. My job and future depend on it. Of course, I replied. You know what's coming, right? I didn't mention this before, just so we're clear. I understand, Colin. Monday morning at 5:30 a.m. On a holiday? I thought weekends were off limits? Exactly. The element of surprise works better. They're more likely to be at home. Is that everyone? Yes, everyone, all at once. Then to different places. CPS has approved it, so it's going to trial. Thanks, Colin. He ended the call. I realized I couldn't inform Anne, Greta, or the boys, but I knew Greta had to stay with her mother on Sunday night. If the police came, it would probably be urgent rather than a calm visit. I decided to ask Greta about what was happening at home. Greta, I said, breaking the quiet as we watched TV. How have things been since my mom and I met? She started to share without me needing to ask more. Well, when she got home, she told Derek that she met your dad and that you had a serious accident. She shared what you told her. Then she said the wedding was off. That led to arguments. My mom said if she'd known what happened to you, she wouldn't have invited Derek over. Derek said you were a thing of the past, and my mom was with him now. The arguing went on, and I finally went to bed, even with Jan's music blaring. My mom was up early Friday morning, and I was having breakfast when Uncle Peter came by. They talked about what you told her, and he said he was going to find out why you made your choice just before the wedding, so I offered to go with him. When we got back, Derek had left, and my mom was moving her things to another bedroom. It looks like their relationship is over. I asked her why, and she said she couldn't be with Derek knowing you were still important to her. She feels like she's still married to you and thinks the divorce was a mistake. Then Peter told her everything you shared with us. He explained it just like you did, including why you reached out before the wedding and mentioned the police and that Mom wasn't talking to you. She seemed relieved, saying she would have felt terrible if she'd married Derek without knowing the truth. He spoke about the letter she got, stressing that it was impossible for you to have written it. Did you know he took that note with your name on it? He showed it to her to prove it wasn't your writing, which made her think hard. After Peter left, Mom finished moving out of Derek's room. I don't think she let him stay over the night before, so I was surprised he stayed in bed so long Friday morning. When I heard this, Jenny laughed and then quickly looked sorry. "Greta!" I feigned shock just enough for her to blush, and then I had to laugh too. "Sorry, Dad, but I'm a big girl now. I do know about boys." Her smile lit up the room. "What were you going to say, Dad?" "So how do you know about boys? From experience? Curiosity?" She raised her hands in mock defense, and I smiled, deciding to leave it alone. It's always a worry when daughters start to notice boys. Jenny's smile was the brightest I had ever seen. "So," I said, "what happened when Derek got home?" "Oh, there was a big argument. That's why I packed and left. He wanted to understand why she was turning him away. What had he done wrong? His mother thought he needed to know, but she felt it wasn't her place to say. She told him she had moved out of the bedroom, marking the end of that part of their relationship. While I was packing, I heard raised voices. He was upset, saying she had ruined their relationship and questioning how she could want someone like him. I found it amusing he was so boring. She replied that the other person was worth much more than him, to which he asked that if that was true, why had she enjoyed her time with him? She reminded him that the children might hear, and we were listening. Although we couldn't catch everything, I felt the tension when he yelled that wasn't true, insisting she was happy. Then there was silence, followed by some mumbling. They were in the living room, so I left a note in the kitchen and went outside. I felt uneasy knowing I had to think it all through, but there were more important things to deal with, especially concerning Jenny, who had been paying close attention. I needed to make sure Greta returned home to support her mother when things got tough on Monday. This meant she had to be told everything except for the specific details of the incident. A careful balance. "Well, Greta," I sighed, "it's quite a situation." She stayed quiet, both she and her mother waiting for me to say more, clearly wanting to know what was next. "Greta," I continued, "stay tonight, but I need you to return home tomorrow." I saw she was about to argue for her stay, so I went on. "Listen, there's more I need to share, and once I do, you'll understand my request better. However, you have to promise not to tell anyone, your mother, the boys, or especially Derek. There are still things I can't say. I promised Colin, and his role depends on that promise. Can you keep what I tell you a secret?" "Yes, Dad," she replied, sounding a bit defeated. "I promise." I disregarded her tone. "Remember I mentioned a man in the photos?" "Yes," she said, slightly impatient. "His name is O'Malley. He said he was paid £3,000 to follow me and report to some men about me. One of the photos Trish showed your mother was of O'Malley and me leaving the station together. O'Malley told me that my client needed to see me and arranged for me to be driven in a red Toyota. 4 hours later, 3 men in a red Toyota left me at a Newcastle building site. Your mother received 4 photos of me with my cousin, but not those with her husband, and the one of O'Malley and me leaving the station. The red Toyota belonged to one of Derek's workers, and the other 2 men were also connected to Derek. They teased O'Malley, bragging about how much they were paid for their part. Someone had told O'Malley about my trip and the intended threat against me. I didn't need to say more. Greta's face changed to one of fear. After a moment, she spoke, her voice trembling. "Daddy, I'm scared. Are you saying Derek wants to hurt you?" "No, sweetheart. I'm not sure what part he plays. I doubt you or the boys are in any real danger from Derek. If he is involved, I don't know if he wants to hurt me because of your mother or my job. You said he seems to care for her in his own way." "Care? He knows nothing about love. He just wants her. I can't stand him. Her strong feelings made me uneasy. I started to worry if she could keep our talk a secret. Greta, I said softly, it's very important that you don't tell anyone what you know. You will understand on Monday morning. I need you to help your mother then. What's happening on Monday, Dad? She asked, her eyes full of curiosity and worry. I need you to trust me on this, I replied seriously. It's better if you don't know the details. I promised Colin I wouldn't share everything. I promised there's no real danger. It's about the police, right? She said, and I feared she had guessed what was going to happen. I kept my face calm. One last thing, I added. If anything goes wrong on Monday, call me. I'll do my best to help. Okay, she said. I'll keep it a secret, Dad. I felt more at ease knowing she would. Good. I'll be home. Just reach out if you or Mum need anything. I got up to make Greta's bed in her old room. Time for bed, I said as I went back to the living room. Jenny was in the kitchen getting things ready for the next day. Greta exchanged a glance with her but stayed quiet. That seemed wise. Not getting a reply, she nodded and went upstairs. I heard the bathroom door close. I helped Jenny finish her work, and then we followed her. In the bathroom, I kept my shirt on while Jenny got ready for bed. She looked at me with interest. I used to tuck her in, I said, feeling a bit awkward. That's nice, Jenny replied with a smile. I waited until I heard Greta leave the bathroom and go to her room. I knocked on her door and she let me in. When I walked into her bedroom, she was sitting up in bed. Wow, she exclaimed, noticing me. Greta, I gently said, where did you learn that word? She smiled. Come on, Dad, we've both heard worse. I'm growing up now, but your poor body. Not much to see, is it? I joked. There were plates, screws, and pins everywhere. I might have the biggest collection of scars you've ever seen. Suddenly, she started to cry, which surprised me. I sat on the edge of her bed and gently wiped her cheek. Please don't cry, sweetheart. None of it hurts as much anymore, just a few aches now and then. It's not that, she sobbed. I remember how handsome you were. You had such a strong presence. Inside, I'm still the same person, chicken. I know, but it's awful what happened to you. That man, she sounded angry. Better to be alive than not, my dear. I almost wasn't here. Just stay calm. Mum should see what Derek did to you. Don't you want things to be made right? I'm upset about what he did, if he really did it, I said thoughtfully. I wish Mum had searched for me longer. I'm sad he got into your lives. Jenny walked in wearing a robe. She looked beautiful. Look there, Greta, I said. I have the support of two incredible women. I mean real support. My friends have worked hard to find out who hurt me. I even found a cousin and a whole family in Sweden, which I'll tell you about later. I'm back at my job, and thanks to Jenny, I'm doing really well. I appreciate the little things and the skills I've had to relearn. I have freedom and my children's love. I brushed her hair back out of her eyes. So no, I don't want revenge. What good would that do? Greta whispered softly. And I know Mom loves you too. I didn't hear her say that, but Jenny told me later. I took a moment to think before adding, What I do want, my dear, I want justice. They did something wrong and should be held responsible. They need to realize their actions were wrong. Greta nodded. Jenny sat on the bed and took my arm. You see, Greta, she said, with your dad, the glass is always half full. Even though you're young, you'll know the saying, you don't know what you have until it's gone. Your dad values what he has because he almost lost everything. Greta gave me a hug. Good night, sweetheart. God bless, I said. You always used to say that, whispered Greta, as I kissed her forehead and Jenny hugged her. Then we left. Keep it down, everyone, Greta called as we closed the door. I paused, but Jenny giggled and gently pulled me back to our room. We tried to be quiet. We didn't manage it. Sunday morning was just like any other. I told Jenny what was going to happen on Monday. Greta slept in, and when she woke up, we went out for lunch before taking her home. We stopped at the gate of Derek's house, and Greta got out. As she gathered her things from the back seat, Anne walked down the drive. She came to my window, and I rolled it down. When she saw Jenny, her face showed confusion along with another feeling I didn't quite understand. Thanks, Alan, for bringing her back. No problem, I replied. I thought having her here might help you. That was nice of you, she replied, looking at Jenny, who smiled back encouragingly. She seemed ready to say more, but paused. I wondered if Jenny's presence made her hold back. Well, she finally said, thank you again. As she turned to leave, she picked up one of Greta's bags. Goodbye, Dad, Greta called, leaning through the open window. Goodbye. Remember to call if you need anything tomorrow. She nodded and took her other bag as she followed her mother out. We drove home quietly. I felt that, like Anne, Jenny wanted to say something but was keeping it in. Eventually, she mentioned that I wouldn't work the next day because of the holiday, and she didn't expect me in on Tuesday either. We spent the afternoon talking about the work that needed to be done. I told her to finish her tasks and enjoy her time off. We had a light dinner and she went to her flat. I went to bed early that night and a strong drink helped me fall asleep quickly. 28. As I expected, the phone woke me at 6:45. Dad, it's Greta. The police took Derek away this morning. Are you okay? I asked. Yes, she said, sounding a bit shaken. Mom. She seems out of it, just doing chores around the house. The police left a mess during their search. They took Derek's computer and some files. She hasn't talked to me about it at all. It feels like she's trying to ignore what happened. Now she is getting ready for work. Tell her to stay home. Remind her it's a holiday. She might be in shock and it's not safe for her to drive or work. The police said they'd come back to talk to her. Dad, it feels like they think she might be involved too. Can you ask her to call me? If the police come back, she'll need someone to support her. I'll reach out to David later. Okay. How are the boys handling it? She chuckled softly, which I appreciated. They slept through it all. Even when the police checked on them during the search, they didn't wake up. That's good. Tell Mom to contact me about taking care of the boys. We hung up, and I went to make breakfast. After shaving, showering, and getting dressed, I was heading downstairs when the phone rang. It was Anne, sounding flat and sad. Alan? Yes, Anne. I'm not at work. It's a holiday. What do you need? Oh, you want to help, do you? She replied sharply. Haven't you done enough? As far as I know, I haven't done anything yet. I tried to stay calm. I just asked Greta to get you to call me. She explained what had happened. Come on, Alan, she said sharply. You started this. You told the police that Derek tried to hurt you? No! Yes! She yelled into the phone. I pulled it away from my ear. You want Derek in trouble? She said. Because he is with me and you are not. Where did you get that idea? I was trying to stay calm. It's obvious. It's not obvious. I promise, Anne, I have not mentioned Derek's name to anyone about my situation. Ask Peter, ask Greta, ask Jeff, or David, or Viv, or Susan. I haven't said anything to the police about him. Colin and Keith are looking for proof and the real guilty people. What they've found is about their relationship. I've said nothing. How can I believe you? Her voice was softer now. Anne, you remember more about our life together than I do. You have to decide if I'm the kind of person who lies. I know I am telling the truth. What would I gain from lying? Also, you don't have to believe me, and honestly, I don't care if you do. And this jealousy thing, come on, you know me better than I know myself. Was I ever the jealous type? Did I ever mistrust you? Long pause. Well, no. Listen, Anne, I spoke honestly. I have two amazing women in my life who care for me. They make me happy. So what do I have to be jealous about? You've moved on. You've divorced me. You're with someone else who loves you. We're both free, and I'm enjoying my freedom, which I didn't ask for. Until this morning, I thought you were too. So, why do you want to help? She shifted from fighting to being sincere. Oh, Anne, you dedicated 20 years to me. You were led to believe I abandoned you. You're in a tough spot. Am I really the kind of person to just stand by when you need help? You're the mother of our children. Do you need more clarity? Sorry, she said suddenly, sounding thoughtful. You're right. Everything you've said makes sense. It always did. Her tone softened. You know the police are coming back? They might arrest me for helping Derek. Yes, Greta told me. I don't know what to do. Do you want me to come over? It sounds like you could use some help. Would you? But if Derek finds you here, Derek won't be home today, that's a guarantee. For this kind of investigation, they have 36 hours to question him. So you knew about this? Yes, Colin told me last night, but it was a secret. He needed to keep his job. That's why I asked Greta to come home. So you kept something from me. No, Anne, I didn't. I just didn't share the police involvement. You said I spoke to them. I haven't. They haven't talked to me either. Colin took a chance when he told me. He knew I would want to make sure you were okay. Oh. Do you still want me to come over? Yes, please. I'll call David too. If they want to talk to you, you'll need him here. Do you think they will? I'm not sure, but it's better to have David close by in case they ask you questions at home. Alan, she sounded worried. I don't understand what's happening. You have to believe me. Anne, my memory isn't clear, but I know you are being honest. I believe you. She sighed, and I could hear it. I'll be there in half an hour. We hung up, and I called David at home. He said since it was a holiday, he could go straight to Anne's place since he didn't live far. I arrived first. The front door opened, and 3 young people greeted me with hugs. I looked up and saw Anne standing at the back of the hallway. She smiled at them, but looked a bit lonely, wishing she could join the welcome. I pulled away and walked over to her. I hugged her and kissed her cheek. The kids eventually wandered off. Don't worry, I whispered. A tear formed in her eye as she turned and led me to the kitchen. The kitchen was as large as the hallway. I wondered if all the rooms were this big. Anne caught my glance and said, Yes, they are. I laughed. You can read my mind. She made coffee and sat across from me. I don't understand any of this, she started, and tears fell. Honestly, Anne, I told her, it's probably better that you don't. If I explain what I know, it might confuse you if they come back. Once they let you go, which they will, I'll share everything with you. Does that make sense? She nodded. Oh, Alan, she sniffed. I feel a lot better now that you're here. David arrived and got the same warm welcome from the kids, who were excited to see Uncle David again. Anne looked a little guilty, but I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. She smiled. I told David I hadn't told Anne anything, and he agreed that it was for the best. He explained that Derek and the other men who were arrested would be questioned for a while and might not be released until the next day unless they were charged. He reassured her that there was no evidence against her that he knew of, so she would not be held. While he talked to her about her time with Derek since I was gone, I took a moment to really look at my ex-wife. She was, and is, a beautiful woman, with a grace that added depth to her looks. Her hair was still rich in color and her skin was smooth, although her neck showed some signs of age. Her high cheekbones promised that her beauty would last, and her large, expressive eyes, straight nose, and inviting smile gave her a timeless charm. As she went to fill the kettle for another pot of coffee, I noticed she looked just as good as she did before having kids. I remembered how much effort she put into staying fit after Stefan was born. It hit me that any man would be drawn to her. Derek, who had recently come out of a tough relationship and often visited to talk about his problems, would probably be eager to connect with her. A wave of anger washed over me as I thought about his betrayal. I remembered all the times I had been nice to him, like when I took him out with friends or let him sleep over when he drank too much. But soon, my feelings turned towards the woman talking with David at the kitchen table. Outside, the sun had given way to clouds, and I could hear the rain starting to fall, making me think of broken relationships. Derek's questions began simple, but soon turned more personal. Anne stole quick glances at me, and I realized I was making things awkward. David looked increasingly irritated as she dodged his questions. Anne, he said firmly, I'm on your side. The police won't make it easy. I quietly left the room and wandered around the ground floor. Derek had clearly put a lot of thought into the house he built. I found the pool, gym, living room, and study, where the missing computers were a clear reminder of absence. Then I headed upstairs and found the master bedroom. That was a mistake. I stood in the room that held memories of them together. The space was fancy, complete with a nice bathroom and big closets. My eyes landed on the dressing table, which symbolized their daily lives, her getting ready while he did the same. They lived comfortably while I was suffering alone, seemingly without any concern for me. I might have misunderstood Anne's feelings about everything, but back then, I was fixated on it. "Awful, isn't it?" my daughter said. "She gave up our lovely house and all its memories for this. Fancy lifestyle." I turned to her. I went out of the kitchen. "Your mom is sharing all about her great life here. She seems to feel constrained by me being around, which tells a lot." Her face changed. "Dad, I want to stay with you and Jenny. I can't manage it here." "Okay, let's sort this out first, and then we can talk with your mom." She looked relieved. "Dad, let me show you the rest of the house. You've seen downstairs, right?" I nodded, and she took my hand, leading me through the upper floor. She showed me the main guest room. "Mom is sleeping here right now. I think I mentioned it." The room was very tidy, offering little insight into its occupant. That made me feel better, perhaps because it suggested Derek wasn't finding happiness with Anne. She led me into the boys' rooms. Jan was on his laptop, and Stefan was listening to music with his headphones on. They both smiled at me. "Greta," I said, "you should knock before going into their rooms. It's their private space." "Sorry, Dad," she smiled. "But you should tell them that, too. I bet Jan is curious about girls." That made me think. These boys needed a dad who would be there for them. I wanted to be that dad. I heard the doorbell, and Greta and I went downstairs to see Anne letting in the police. 2 officers came in, a man in a leather jacket and a woman in a smart suit. "Who are you?" asked the man as I reached the bottom of the stairs. "I'm Alan Johnson, Anne's ex-husband." The woman nudged him. "It's him," she said, and I realized they were looking into the situation involving me. They checked my condition without saying much and followed Anne into the living room. Greta and I followed behind. They quickly arrested Anne on suspicion of being involved in causing harm. David asked if they could ask her questions here, but they insisted on taking her to the station. Anne turned to me, looking worried. "They're taking me to the police station," she said, looking at Greta. "Don't worry, Anne," I replied. "I'll take care of the kids. David will let me know when you're back." We took some time to get the boys ready. I told them to expect a longer stay, so we gathered a lot of their things. The police waited patiently as we organized. We left, and Anne locked the house. They allowed Anne to go with David since he was her lawyer. We left first, the car filled with everything the boys might need, along with their clothes, school uniforms, sleepwear, and toiletries. The boys chatted excitedly about staying at our house. I wondered if they missed their mother right then or if it would hit them later. I was thankful to have Greta helping me, as she packed her own things in 2 suitcases. 29. We stopped at the supermarket on the way home. I had 3 hungry kids to feed. I let them show me around the store as they filled the cart with snacks, and I added some healthy items for dinner like vegetables and fruit. When we got to the house, we found a crowd blocking our way. There were teams from the BBC, ITV, and other news outlets, along with several reporters. They moved aside to let us in, and we were greeted with camera flashes as they tried to capture our arrival. After parking, the children unloaded their things and went inside, while I walked up to the crowd and asked them to leave. Questions came quickly, but I didn't answer until everyone was outside the gate. Then, a TV crew lined up, and an interviewer held out a microphone to me. I raised a hand to pause them. "I have nothing to say because I know nothing. I don't remember the events around today's arrests, nor the days before or after, so I can't comment." "Johnson," the interviewer asked, "how do you feel now that the arrests have been made?" "Tired." "Have you taken the children away from their mother for safety?" "The children's mother is helping the police, and as their father, I'm caring for them at her request until she comes home." "But you've brought them here?" "Yes. This is where I live. They used to live here. They feel safe here during this tough time." "Are you happy that these men have been arrested?" "Why should I be happy? As far as I know, they are working with the police. Again, I know nothing. But you must feel good that progress is being made. If progress is happening, that is good. I don't know if it is. Now, I would appreciate it if you would leave us alone." With that, I closed the gate and walked away, ignoring the shouted questions about my personal life. As I walked into the house, the phone started ringing. I let it go to voicemail, but no one left a message. I changed the outgoing message to say, "If you are from the media, you won't get a response. Family and friends, please leave a message and I'll call you back." I told the children not to answer the phone, and we adjusted to its endless ringing, which eventually stopped. The rain, which had started while I was at Derek's house, continued all day, but the boys didn't seem to care. Once inside, they grabbed their bags and went to their old bedrooms. Greta went into the kitchen, and I heard the kettle starting to boil. I gathered bedding and made the boys' beds, just in case Anne wasn't back until morning. Greta's bed was already made from her last visit. The boys were lost in their games, making my arrival less noticeable, which was a relief. Soon enough, they'd realized their mother was not around. Trish called to say she'd be arriving in Manchester on Thursday afternoon and leaving on Friday. I offered her a place to stay for the night, and she accepted with a laugh. For lunch, I made beans on toast, topped with a poached egg, and cut into strips for dipping. They eagerly ate it. "Dad," Jan exclaimed, "we haven't had anything like this since—" He paused, catching himself. "Since I was away, Jan?" I finished for him. "Since I was hurt? You can mention it, you know." "Sorry, Dad," he said. "Don't worry, son," I assured him. "You can talk to me about anything." "Are you going to get Mom to come home, Dad?" Stefan asked, feeling comfortable to ask, too. Once again, I found myself in a tough spot. I didn't see that happening. I had been thinking about the earlier events while making the beds and cooking. Anne hadn't talked about her relationship with Derek when I was around. I had kept my distance to avoid any awkwardness, but the result was still the same. There were parts of her life I wasn't aware of. I wondered briefly if there was more to their relationship than I realized. Had they been close before my accident? I couldn't remember the days leading up to what happened, so I wasn't sure. Was Anne somehow a part of it? I pushed that thought aside. She seemed truly surprised when I told her I hadn't been with anyone else and that I had been hurt. She kept her distance from Derek when I was around, which didn't make sense. Still, it was possible they had a connection that played a role in what happened to me. Regardless of the truth, it was clear that things would not go back to the way they were. Too much had happened, but we could still be friends. "It's not that simple, Stefan," I said gently. "A lot has changed, and we're no longer a couple. I don't think that will change again, but we both care about you, and you will see us both going forward." "I don't want to go back there," Jan said firmly, with the others agreeing. "Dad," Greta said excitedly, "he took Mom away from you. He got too close, didn't he? And he tried to—" "Greta!" I interrupted firmly, and she stopped, remembering her promise to hold back. "Listen, kids," I said more calmly, "the best thing to do is to talk to Mom about everything." "Dad," Jan asked, "what's happening with the police? Why did they take Mom? And where's Derek?" I knew I had to be careful with my words, but Greta spoke up before I could answer. "The police think something happened, and they are asking Mom questions to see if she knows anything." "I wouldn't be surprised if he did something," Jan said quietly. I appreciated Greta's gentle interruption and felt it was best not to add anything more. As the afternoon went on, the crowd at the gate thinned out until it was quiet again. Greta was busy studying for her upcoming exams, and I worried this situation might distract her at such an important time. The boys were in their rooms. As evening came, I decided to make stew and dumplings with stir-fried vegetables, a meal the kids usually enjoyed. After dinner, Jan worked on his homework, just like always, putting it off until the last minute. Greta took a short break to freshen up before going back to her studies. Stefan didn't have homework that night, and I realized they were still in school nearby, commuting from Hale each day. I turned on the TV for the news, and I was taken aback by what I saw. A reporter stood outside a police station in Manchester. "Police conducted raids in Wythenshawe and Hale today, leading to the arrest of 5 men connected to a serious incident involving a local businessman 2 years ago. Derek Fanshawe from Hale Barnes, along with Craig Wilson, Lee Harper, and Gary Grantham from Wythenshawe, and Terrence O'Malley from Sale, have been helping the police since early this morning. Later, Mr. Fanshaw's partner, Mrs. Ann Johnson, was also taken in." She is the former wife of Alan Johnson, the businessman who was injured. A police update is expected later today. Mr. Johnson was badly hurt and had a very small chance of surviving when he was taken to the hospital, the news presenter continued. Why did it take more than 2 years for these arrests to occur? The interviewer asked. Well, we were told that Mr. Jansson's injuries were so serious that he was hard to recognize, and his things were taken, making it hard to identify him. When he woke from his coma, he could not remember who he was. I felt thankful that my interview hadn't been shown. Jan stared in disbelief. Dad, they're talking about you, aren't they? Yes. Is it true? Did Derek do this? Jan, please sit down. Get Stefan and Greta. When they came, I turned off the TV. Listen closely. What just aired is important for our family. I want to remind you that no one is guilty until proven guilty. Keep that in mind. Derek has been arrested for trying to harm me. 3 of his friends are suspected of helping him, and another man working with Derek is believed to have led them to me. They are suspected. But the police must have reasons, said Jan. Yes, I believe they do. I shared the details, getting used to the situation. They all sound guilty to me, said Greta. But not Mom, said Stefan. She wouldn't do that. She cares about you, Dad. Stefan was the most loyal of the 3, and I appreciated him for that. I couldn't believe that Anne would be involved in this. It just didn't make sense. I know, Stefan, and I agree with you. But remember that people are innocent until proven guilty. Mom was also arrested. Being arrested doesn't mean she did something wrong. Do you understand? Yes, Dad, they replied together. As the boys went back upstairs, I heard Jan say, I bet he did it. And Stefan responded, so do I. I had done what I could. Greta went back to her studies, though I wondered how she could focus with loud music playing. By 9, there was still no news about Anne, so I put the boys to bed and checked the messages on the answering machine. There were a few strange calls, some rude, and messages from Jenny and Trish asking me to call them later. David called my mobile at 10 and mentioned he thought things would end soon. Greta came down when she heard my phone, and after I shared the news, she went to bed. At 10:45, the doorbell rang. There on the step was Vivian, with a tired-looking Anne beside her. Come in, I said. They walked into the kitchen. I followed and started boiling water for tea and heating up some stew. They sat at the table, and I joined them while the kettle warmed up. Anne, I said, you've been through a lot. She's been cleared, Alan, said Viv. David told me to let you know that everyone else will be facing charges and will see the judge in the morning. I don't understand, Anne said as I made tea. I can't believe Derek would do something like this. The police must be mistaken. He is such a kind person. Why would they accuse him? Did the police say anything to you? I asked. Not a word. They just wanted to know about my time with Derek. They seemed to think I helped him. Did you? I wondered. She hesitated. No, she raised her voice. How could you think that? I cared for you. O'Malley mentioned that someone who hired Derek knew about my trip to York and my plans to get there. A heavy silence fell between us, and Anne looked both anxious and guilty. Well, Anne, I urged. I might have told Derek about my plans, I guess. When did you mention that, Anne? Alan, Viv cut in. She's been asked questions all day, not you, too. I'm sorry, I said. I just wanted to say that the police might have a reason for what they're doing, Anne. An uncomfortable silence followed. I stood up and stirred the stew, putting a few potatoes in the microwave. You both look like you could use a meal. It's almost ready. I served the food, and they ate quietly. Once they finished and had their tea, I noticed a small smile on Anne's face, and her color seemed to come back. I was reminded of her beauty and the loss I felt. Then I remembered the news. Anne, I said, Jan saw the news tonight. I talked to them and stressed that people are innocent until proven guilty, but that didn't seem to matter. They think Derek is guilty. They want to stay here, so I thought you should know. Are you trying to turn them against me now, Alan? She asked. Anne, if that were my goal, I wouldn't be telling you this. They can see and hear everything. I just want you to be ready if they ask about it. But you want them here. Please, Anne, I replied, trying to be patient. What I want doesn't matter. I don't know if I could handle that. I can manage on my own, but a ready-made family? The important thing is what's best for them. I believe they're better off with you, but they're scared of Derek not because of anything I've said, I added quickly. Oh, Viv shifted. We should be going, she told Anne. Did Anne look let down? Is it all right if I say goodnight to the kids? Anne asked. Of course, Anne, I said. You don't have to ask. She smiled and stepped out of the room. Viv took the chance while Anne was gone. Alan, she said softly, Anne is really having a hard time. She's been through so much and today was too much for her. She's confused and scared after everything that's happened, especially with the police taking Derek away and her being questioned for so long. She needs support. Please help her, Alan. I thought her boyfriend would be the one to help, I said coldly. Why did everyone think I was responsible for Anne? He's not available, and he might not be until the trial. That's not true, Viv. He'll probably be out soon, and I think O'Malley will be as well. By the end of the week, O'Malley will likely forget what happened. The others will be kept in custody. They have a history. Alan, please, she pleaded. Don't take your frustrations out on me. Anne is in a tough spot. She doesn't know whether to trust Derek. She needs the truth, and you can help her. Please, Alan? I sighed and agreed. All right, Viv, I said as Anne came back. If she wants to know anything, she'll have to ask me. I'm not chasing after you. Who? Anne asked. You, I replied sharply. Time to go, Viv said. What should I do about the kids, Anne? I can take them to school tomorrow, but do you want them back here in the afternoon? I'm not sure what will happen tomorrow. Can they come back to you, Greta, as well? I nodded. Can I come by tomorrow? I really need to talk to you. Why not come early before they're back from school? Viv smiled at me kindly. Yes, I had given in, but Anne seemed grateful and said she'd call to confirm during the day. I told her to reach me on my mobile. I wasn't sure if I'd be at work. As we reached the door, Viv hugged me tightly. Thank you, she whispered. You're a good person. I'm just confused, I muttered, and she laughed softly. Anne came in for her hug, and once again I held her, feeling the comfort of our past friendship. She kissed my cheek, and I kissed hers back. There were tears in her eyes, and I felt a lump in my throat. 30. I don't make breakfast during the week, so there were cereal boxes on the kitchen table, a jug of milk, and, against my better judgment, a bowl of sugar. Waking my daughter and older son from sleep was a challenge, bringing back memories of mornings gone by, though Stefan was up and cheerful. I told them to come back to me in the afternoon so we could decide where they would spend the night. I thought about having them walk to school. Stefan's school was close, and the high school was a 20-minute walk away. But when I looked outside, I saw some reporters at the gate, so I decided to drive them, avoiding a few journalists in the process. When I returned, the reporters had gone, so I gathered my things and headed into work. Jenny welcomed me with a warm hug when we were safely in my office. Missed you, she whispered. I told her I had missed her too. She wanted to know what had happened the day before, which I explained. I finished by mentioning that Anne would be coming over in the afternoon to talk, so I would be leaving early. I couldn't quite read her face, but I felt some hesitation. I decided to stay quiet. Shortly after 1 o'clock, Jeff told me he had seen Anne and Derek leaving the court on the 1 o'clock news. All the defendants were sent to the Crown Court for trial, just as I expected. The 3 who had caused trouble were held in custody, while Derek and O'Malley were out on bail. It looked like there was a case to consider, and the trial was scheduled for 3 or 4 months from now. At 2 o'clock, I got a call from Anne. Alan, she said, sounding a bit breathless, which made me curious about how she felt. I reminded myself to stay focused and listened. Are you free now? She asked. I'm in the car, ready to come over. I knew I needed about 5 minutes to wrap things up and another 10 to get home. 20 minutes, I said before hanging up. Jenny and I tidied up and left together. When we stepped outside, a camera crew was waiting for us. They seemed ready to talk to us, but I was eager to get home before Anne arrived. Jenny stopped to chat while I kept walking. I had just walked into the house when Anne arrived. She was dressed casually in a t-shirt and jeans. looking as good as ever. Without needing to ask, I started making tea. Anne sat quietly at the kitchen table until I placed a mug in front of each of us. "Can we go into the living room?" she asked. We moved to the living room where I settled into an armchair and she sat on the sofa. I could sense some tension in the air. "Why are you doing this to Derek?" Her question was straightforward and tough to answer, like I was caught in a bind. "I thought we had talked about this. I'm not doing anything to Derek." "Derek says you are. He claims you're behind this witch hunt. So Derek must be right, which means I'm lying. But he says you've accused him of trying to hurt you." "Anne, if you can find someone who says I've accused him of anything, I'd be surprised and would think they're not telling the truth. I've never accused Derek of anything. How would he even know if I had?" "But you believe he's involved." "Yes, but that's very different from telling others. You're the first person I've shared my true thoughts with." "I don't understand." "All right," I said. "I'll share what I know so you can make your own opinion. Does that sound good?" "Alan," she said, a touch of urgency in her voice. "No one is sharing anything with me. I need to know." "Okay." I took a deep breath. "Here it is. I remember nothing about my attack or what happened before or after it. Everything I know is from what others have told me. I can't blame anyone when I don't have personal experience. Greta mentioned that Peter shared a lot with you, and this is what I've learned. I ran into Felicia, my cousin, at the hotel. You remember the man O'Malley from the photo? He was there, and he was also at the station. Recently, he told Colin, Keith, and me that he was paid £3,000 to watch me and help me find 3 other men who showed up in court today. The 3 men drove a red Toyota, which the police discovered. My DNA was found in the trunk. When I was attacked, that car was registered to one of those men. Derek is their boss. O'Malley works for Derek, who said they each received £10,000 to do the job. A witness saw 3 men taking my body out of a red Toyota at a construction site. You only saw 4 incriminating pictures of me and my partner. The other 2 that could have cleared me were not shared with you. They were there. Why weren't they sent? Colin often asks, who benefits? Yes, Anne interrupted. It means who gains from this? Exactly, and that's what you need to think about. Who gained from the pictures being hidden? People say you didn't lose hope for my return until you got a letter that supposedly came from me, saying coldly that I didn't love you. I couldn't have written that since I had no memory of you or the children when it was written. It's not real. So again, who benefits? I have one more question for you. Who told you to get a divorce? Who encouraged you to claim half the business? Whose construction company is struggling and needs a lot of money fast? With each question, Anne looked more pale and uneasy. Derek never mentioned his company was in trouble, she said quietly. I heard that from Colin and Keith, who know more, and even Jeff has picked up on it. It's pretty well known. And he didn't tell me, she said slowly. Anne, I said softly, have I blamed Derek? No, I've just shared what I know. The facts speak for themselves. But, she said, I lived with him for a year and he did this to you? I feel so upset. You didn't know. Oh, Alan. He took over the search for you from the beginning and I let it happen. She became quiet. I saw her face change from pain to anger. I waited, and then she spoke firmly, showing the strength I had once admired in her. The shock of her husband's actions had shaken her confidence, but the fake letter had sparked a new determination. Well, he is done. I need to find us a new place to live. She smiled with a hint of sarcasm. I never really liked that house anyway. Was this the old Anne? Even in this tough moment, she found a bit of humor. What will you do tonight, Anne? Oh, I'm going back there. Her face showed strong determination, like the woman I once knew. After a short pause, she asked, Will you have the kids here? I can take care of myself, but I'd rather not be around them. Are you sure, I asked, that you want to be alone with him in the house? Alan, she said calmly, Derek isn't a threat. He's really harmless. And I have to say, he cares about me, she added with a touch of pride. Although since I talked to you and changed the wedding plans, I doubt he's too happy, unless he's busy fixing things around the house. We both chuckled, and just then the phone rang. It was Jenny. "How did things go?" she asked. "Do you need me to come over?" "Hi, Jenny," I replied, glancing at Anne. "Things have been a bit hectic. Anne just took Derek home and is here now. The kids will be staying over. Would you like to join us tonight?" She paused for a moment. "Is Anne staying?" she asked. "No. She's going back to Derek's tonight. I think she has some things to sort out with him. Then she'll need to find another place to live. Any thoughts?" "I'll think about it and let you know." I usually read people's faces well, a skill I picked up early in my recovery. It's very useful in sales and negotiations. However, the look on Anne's face during that conversation confused me. Was it disappointment or acceptance? I couldn't tell. What I did notice was that it didn't look happy, maybe because of something she learned about Derek. "What's bothering you, Anne?" I asked, not wanting to pry, but curious if Jenny was part of it. "Nothing," she replied in a way that made it clear she didn't want to discuss it. I decided not to dig deeper and change the subject. "How do you plan to handle this?" I asked next. "Well," she said, "could you look after the children for a bit? I know they'd love being here. This is home for them. I'll pack their things tomorrow while Derek is at work and bring them over." "Sure, I can do that," I said. "Greta's met Jenny, and the boys should meet her as well. She's great with kids, so there shouldn't be any problems." I quickly moved on to the next question. "What about your situation with Derek?" "I don't need to explain much. I'll tell him the children are going to stay with you, but I won't share what I know. I can handle what he says, and he can deal with my silence. He's getting used to being on his own. I just need to find a place to rent, and when I do, I'll be clear about my plans." She noticed my confusion. "I'm going to explain my choice to him. Alan, I'm letting go of all claims on you. I never wanted a part of the company. I was just doing what Derek wished, but now I understand why. I was so easily influenced. I'll also step away from any claims on your money or support, then I'll tell him. It will mean he will not have any money to help him, and I'm curious about how he will handle that. I just wonder how far he went to control me or get money. In a way, I hoped he would leave. Then I will pack my things and finally tell him it's over." I admired her determination and careful planning. I had not seen that side of her before, and I decided not to think too much about it. "Would you like to stay for tea?" I asked. "Please," she said with a smile. "It will be nice to be around the children without the tension of having Derek here. They really do not like him." "Yes," I said, a bit annoyed. "They told me. Greta is worried about how he looks at her." Anne looked surprised, then her face showed concern. "It's good she has moved out, then." After a moment, her face tightened. "That is worrying." I planned to make pork chops with rice, corn, and green beans, followed by apple pie. We went to the kitchen to get everything ready for the kids. When they arrived, the boys happily greeted their mother, clearly pleased to see her with me in the kitchen. After a warm hug, the questions began. "Are you back home, Mom?" asked Jan. "Are you staying with Dad now?" asked Stefan. "One at a time," Anne said, taking a breath after being hugged by her sons. "I asked Dad if you can stay here for a while." "Does that mean we aren't going back with him?" Stefan asked. "Yes," she said firmly. "You are not going back to that house." "Oh, great," he said, smiling, as did Jan. "Are you coming home too?" Jan asked eagerly. "Jan, it's not that easy. Dad is with someone else now. Her name is Jennifer, and until today I was with Derek." "Can't he just break up with her like you did with Derek?" "Jan," Anne replied, "there are good reasons for me to end things with Derek." "Yes, he tried to hurt Dad," Stefan said. "Where did you hear that?" Anne asked sharply, looking at me. "It was on TV, Mom." "And what did I tell you, Stefan?" I added. "Everyone is innocent until proven guilty, Dad," Jan said. Anne looked relieved, but I felt annoyed. She thought I had told them about everything, even after I promised her I wouldn't. I shot her a glance, and she seemed embarrassed. "But you are breaking up with Derek, so you must think he is guilty too," Jan said. Now Anne looked unsure. "I think there is enough reason to be worried about your safety," she finally said. "That is why I want you here. As soon as I can find a nice place for you, you can move in with me. For now, I will go back to Derek's." I had heard enough. "All right, everyone," I said firmly. "You three will stay here with me. Mom needs to end things with Derek properly and find a new home. She can't stay with me because I already have a girlfriend, and I'm not ending that relationship. You'll meet Jenny later tonight or tomorrow. She is a nice person, and I expect you to be kind to her. Greta has met her and thinks she's great. That's all I want to say about it. Just then, Greta came in. "Who do I like, Dad?" she asked, walking through the door. "Jenny?" "Oh, yes," she said excitedly. "She's really nice. Oh, hello, Mom." She said this with a mix of surprise and happiness as she walked over to Anne and hugged her. "Are you staying for dinner?" she asked, and Anne nodded. The kids went off to play, and Anne and I finished making dinner. I added a pineapple slice to each chop since it was a special treat. The kids loved this meal and often asked for it on their birthdays. It brought back good memories. We sat together in the dining room, as we always did. It felt comforting, yet it was odd since we were not a complete family anymore. Still, the conversation was lively with lots of talk about school and friends, along with laughter and playful teasing. Once again, I noticed how lovely Anne looked, with her cheerful face and quick sense of humor. Her smile brightened the whole room. Anger bubbled up inside me at the thought that our happy family life was disrupted by the man she was returning to. After dinner, Anne said she had to go but would return the next day with the kids' things. It was clear they would stay with me, and they seemed happy about it. I called Jenny and invited her over. She mentioned she had an idea that she wasn't sure I would like, but she would share it when she got here. She also said she wouldn't stay overnight with the boys there, as they had just moved in. When she arrived, I called the boys down to meet her. Stefan glanced at her, said, "Hello," and went back to his games. Jan stood frozen, and I had to hold back my giggles. He looked at her with wide eyes, a bit shy and speechless, unable to look away. "Hello, Jan," she said gently with a smile. "Hello," he stammered, and then turned to run away. She looked confused and turned to me. "What's going on?" she asked. "He's got a crush on you," I said with a laugh. "What do you mean?" "I think he's smitten. I might have competition." She laughed back quickly. "Well, he is a lot younger than you." We chuckled and moved to the living room. "I have an idea," Jenny said. "You might not like it." "Tell me." "Well, Anne needs a place to stay." "Right, I see your point," I replied, trying to keep my tone light. "Do you want to hear my idea or not?" "Sure. Go on. I promise to be serious," I said, trying to look serious. Jenny sighed in frustration. "You have a flat you're still renting, don't you?" I quickly understood what she meant, though I didn't grasp it fully at first. "It's not big enough for her and the kids, and it's farther from their school." "Can I finish talking?" she said, sounding annoyed. "I'm sorry. Why doesn't Anne come here?" "I'm not going back to her right now. There are too many problems between us," I answered firmly. "Alan, I'm sorry. Anne can come here and live with the kids. You can move out to the flat." I was surprised. I had never thought about that idea. I thought I was prepared for the worst, but what I found shook me to the core. How could she hide this from me for so long? And Doriki's not innocent either. Want to know how I confronted the truth? Subscribe now and join me for part 4. The real reckoning is just beginning.